Chapter 1, Shadow King. On the Douluo Continent, in Nodding City of Fasnuo Province, the Wuhun Hall was alive with hushed excitement. Inside the martial spirit awakening chamber, Deacon Suyun Tao peered at the lone boy before him, his brow furrowed. Hiss, this child's martial spirit, could it really be a beast spirit? Just then, the grand doors creaked open, and Master Matthew Nuo entered. Scanning the now empty seats where other children had already completed their awakenings, he asked, Suyun Tao, is this the only candidate left today? Suyun Tao bowed respectfully. Yes, Master. This one's martial spirit has never been recorded in our archives. Should we log it as a first? Matthew Nuo's eyes lit up. A brand new martial spirit? Absolutely. We must document it. With that, he turned and strode into the office across the hall. Once the older master was out of earshot, Suyun Tao softened his tone and addressed the boy. Child, tell me your name. The boy bowed his head. Master Suyun Tao, my name is Cheng Xiao. Suyun Tao inclined his head, a gentle smile forming on his lips. Cheng Xiao, then. Let us see what destiny has in store for you. With that, he motioned toward the polished marble dais at the center of the chamber. A faint glow gathered in Cheng Xiao's chest. Something ancient and untamed was stirring. Outside, the whispers of Wuhun Hall's witnesses grew louder as they strained to glimpse the awakening of a martial spirit unlike any they had ever seen, the Shadow King. Cheng Xiao barely met Suyun Tao's gaze as the elder praised him. With parents like yours, you must come from a long line of great soul masters. Cheng Xiao offered a small nod, but said nothing. Ever since he'd arrived on the Douluo Continent, an accidental time traveler from Blue Star, utterly orphaned, he'd been raised by the village chief of Chengjia Village, just outside Holy Soul Village. His solitary past made him cautious with flattery. Suyun Tao turned the conversation to the matter at hand. Tell me, Cheng Xiao, what is your martial spirit? Is it a beast spirit? Cheng Xiao hesitated, then lifted his chin to acknowledge the figure standing silently at his back. Clad in dark purple armor and a flowing cloak, the Shadow King's eyes glowed like twin amethysts. My martial spirit is called Shadow Soldier, Cheng Xiao said quietly. And yes, it's classified as a beast spirit. Suyun Tao's face broke into a broad, approving smile. A beast spirit. Excellent. Let's see what sort of power your Shadow Soldier holds. Gently, he set aside the blue crystal ball that floated above its pedestal, then motioned Cheng Xiao forward. Taking a steadying breath, Cheng Xiao stepped up. He raised his right hand and pressed his palm against the crystal's smooth surface. In an instant, tendrils of dark purple light unfurled from the sphere, painting the entire Hall of Spirit, revealing in a deep, shifting glow. All eyes turned to him, anticipation crackling in the air as the test of his spirit power began. Oh my goodness! Suyun Tao's eyes widened as he knelt beside the newborn. He's born with full soul power, a perfect spirit foundation. Joy lit up Suyun Tao's face. If this boy, Cheng Xiao, joined Wuhun Hall, Su's own status and salary would surely rise. He cleared his throat, steadying his excitement. Cheng Xiao, he began gently, would you like to become a member of Spirit Hall? The infant couldn't answer, of course, but Suyun Tao imagined his future potential. Then, Cheng Xiao's older sister, standing shyly at the edge of the room, stepped forward. She bit her lip. Master Su, she said softly, I'm afraid I may disappoint you. Suyun Tao furrowed his brow. What do you mean? You don't want to join the hall? She glanced down, her voice barely above a whisper. I've decided I'd rather grow up to be a free soul master, unaffiliated with any organization. At her words, a shadow crossed Suyun Tao's face. Once, he too had dreamed of walking a free soul master's path. In the harsh world of Douluo Continent, however, power was everything, and he'd be forced to abandon that dream long ago. But now, gazing at the determined young girl, his pride as an instructor won out. He offered a warm, encouraging smile. Very well, Cheng Xiao. If being a free soul master is your dream, I believe in you. Your innate soul power marks you as someone who can truly change the world, Master Suyun Tao said, his gaze steady on Cheng Xiao. And since you wish to remain a freelance soul master, I won't force you to join the Wuhun Palace. The choice is yours. Thank you. Master Su, Cheng Xiao replied with a grateful smile. Suyun Tao shook his head, still smiling. Don't mention it. Because you've chosen not to affiliate with the palace, I'll grant you this Soul Master certificate. With it, any Soul Academy or junior college will be honored to have you. Cheng Xiao nodded and accepted the certificate. Once the formalities were complete, the two stepped outside. No sooner had they reached the door than Cheng Xiao's grandfather, the village chief, hurried forward, worry etched into every line of his face. "Master Su," he panted, "please tell me, is my Xiao Xiao capable? Can he truly become a soul master?" Su Yuntao's lips curved into a reassuring smile. "Chief Cheng, your grandson is now officially a soul master, and he possesses full, innate soul power." The old man's eyes shot to Cheng Xiao in astonishment. "Full, innate soul power?" he repeated, voice trembling with pride. His weathered features broke into a broad grin. "That's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Your grandson has an innate soul, brimming with soul power." Deacon Su Yuntao's eyes gleamed as he spoke, his voice rich with pride. "Grandpa, please lower your voice," Cheng Xiao hissed, tugging gently at Su Yuntao's sleeve. He cast nervous glances around the busy village square, but Su Yuntao merely laughed. "Cheng Xiao, you may not have joined Wuhun Hall yet, but if you ever find yourself in need, come to me without hesitation." Village Chief Cheng clapped his hands together, beaming. "Xiao Xiao, you must thank the deacon right away." Cheng Xiao drew himself up and inclined his head. "Thank you, Deacon Su." Su Yuntao waved his hand dismissively. "No need for formalities, boy. I'm bound for Holy Soul Village shortly, so I won't keep you." With a final warm smile, he turned and strode away, his robes swaying in the mid-morning breeze. As soon as the deacon's figure vanished down the lane, Village Chief Cheng hurried back to the cluster of onlookers at the square's center. His face radiated excitement. Word of his grandson's rare gift had spread, and the villagers pressed in, eager for details. "Friends, neighbors," the chief called out, his voice booming. "You'll be amazed. Cheng Xiao was born with a complete soul. More soul power than most cultivators can only dream of." A hush fell over the crowd, followed by murmurs of astonishment and awe. Cheng Xiao stood at the edge of the gathering, arms folded, trying not to grin. His grandfather's pride was contagious, and a bit embarrassing, yet he made no move to dampen the old man's joy. Today, his legacy had been honored, and that knowledge warmed him from within. Cheng Xiao stared down at the lifeless chicken on the rough wooden board and clenched his teeth. He had already mastered summoning soul beasts and other spirit creatures, but now came the real test. If, after awakening the Shadow King's martial spirit, he could animate dead flesh into obedient shadow soldiers, just as his friend Cheng Xiaoyu had claimed. At dawn, before the sun had fully risen, Cheng Xiao had slipped next door and bought a live chicken from a farmer. Handling poultry was a far cry from cornering a wild soul beast, but it would serve as the simplest experiment. He prepared the carcass with calm precision, each cut measured and exact. When the last feather fell away, Cheng Xiao straightened, inhaled deeply, and stamped his foot on the ground. "Stand up," he commanded, voice cold and resolute. "Silence." Cheng Xiao's shoulders slumped. He released his martial spirit, and with a resigned sigh, murmured, "Well, that's another failure." Before he could dwell on it, a new presence flickered in his mind. The voice was low, clear, plain yet imposing, like wind over a still moor. "I am Aspen, the Shadow King. You have awakened me. Are you willing to accept my power?" Cheng Xiao's heart jolted. Aspen, the legendary master of shadows, whispered of in every myth and martial arts tome, was speaking directly to him. He pressed a hand to his chest, willing himself to stay calm. All his careful study, all-night cultivation sessions in lonely towers, had led him here. In fact, it was that very all-night session that had brought him to this land. Too exhausted to slog up the spiral staircase in the morning, he'd summoned the tower's elevator, only to emerge, disoriented, on the shores of the Douluo Continent. Now, with Aspen's voice resonating in his mind, everything was about to change. Cheng Xiao straightened, eyes bright. "Yes," he whispered, voice firm. "I accept." Shadow King Aspen's voice echoed through the chamber, low and resonant. "It appears that my power found its way into this world because of you, my chosen successor." Cheng Xiao shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "Really?" He offered a sheepish grin. Aspen inclined his head, his eyes darkening with ancient knowledge. "Yes, the hierarchy of power in this realm is fascinating, yet beyond it there exists a mightier force, entities we once called gods." "Gods?" Cheng Xiao echoed, brows lifting in surprise. "You mean the deities who watch over all things?" I haven't heard that name bandied about in centuries, the Shadow King murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. Embrace my strength, and you will become the third-generation Shadow King. The moment those words fell, Cheng Xiao felt an invisible hand seize his heart. His pulse thundered in his ears, and a crushing weight bore down on his chest, stealing his breath. Pain flared through his body so abruptly that he buckled at the knees and collapsed onto the cold stone floor, curling inward as though to protect himself from an unseen blow. Through gritted teeth, Aspen's voice lingered in his mind. You are not like Cheng Xiao. He operates with a designer's system that adapts gradually to this world's strange energies. I cannot allow you that same luxury of time. To prevent your essence from shattering under the strain, I've sealed my power within you in a controlled stream. He paused, the air around them growing still. Fear not. As you grow stronger and ascend through your levels, the power I've woven into your very being will awaken in full. A shiver ran down Cheng Xiao's spine as he struggled to steady his breathing. Somewhere deep inside him, a faint spark of shadow stirred, waiting to ignite. When your strength is fully grown, your shadow soldiers will multiply. One person can be an entire army, a true king. When we meet again, I hope you'll have claimed your destiny as the Shadow King. Chapter 2. Enrollment. Dawn was just breaking, the pale, fish-belly light of morning creeping over the eastern horizon. Along the narrow country road winding through Chengxia village, a lone figure raced against the rising sun, each footfall stirring up little clouds of dust. Cheng Xiao panted, his breaths coming in ragged bursts. This was the 3rd month since he'd inherited the Shadow King Aspen's power, and under its dark blessing, his body had transformed. Before, with only a 6-year-old frame, such grueling training would have been impossible. No matter how strong one's will, if the body can't keep pace, pushing too hard only leads to collapse. But shadow energy now flowed through his veins like a supercharged elixir. Every morning, he felt lighter on his feet, every strike more powerful. And after each punishing workout, sleep repaired him so thoroughly that he woke stronger than the day before. It was this miraculous recovery that had allowed him to push himself, day after day, month after month, without faltering. Cheng Xiao finally slowed to a halt, just as the sun crested the horizon, its first rays painting the sky in pale gold. He drew in a deep breath, a small, satisfied smile on his face. Miles of dawn runs felt endlessly tedious, yet he found himself strangely addicted to the routine. Every time he pushed through the pain, he emerged feeling a fraction stronger, a bit more resilient. That steady progress was what kept him lacing up his shoes before dawn, day after day. He often thought of Cheng Xiao, the 2nd-generation Shadow King. Xiao had climbed to greatness one deliberate step at a time, but with a swiftness Cheng Xiao could only envy. Holding that example in mind, he reminded himself to pick up the pace. At home, the kitchen table was already set, a steaming bowl of rice porridge, a neatly peeled egg, and a sesame cake the size of his palm. Eggs hadn't always been on the menu. Ever since Cheng Xiao began his early morning training regimen, his grandfather had quietly made sure they appeared. Xiao Xiao, eat up, then go wash off the sweat, Grandpa Cheng called from the doorway, his eyes twinkling. I've secured you a spot at the Soulmaster Academy in Notting City. Each village gets one work-study scholarship. You're the one I've chosen. A surge of gratitude warmed Cheng Xiao's chest. Thank you, Grandpa. He ate slowly, savoring both the simple comfort of the meal and the promise of what lay ahead. After all the years they'd spent together, his grandfather's pride felt like the strongest fuel of all. Cheng Xiao and his grandfather set out from Chengxia village just after breakfast. Once they'd finished eating, Cheng Xiao slipped into the bath and emerged in the new clothes his grandfather had bought for him in Notting City a few days earlier. He didn't know how much they'd cost, but he treasured them all the same. After all, it was his grandfather, the man who had raised him, who had chosen them. As they walked, Cheng Xiao's small hand clutched his grandfather's firmly, as if afraid to let go. The journey to Notting City was brief, a morning's travel, and they would arrive by afternoon. As the imposing city walls came into view, Cheng Xiao quickened his pace, excitement mingling with a touch of nervousness. They paused at the inspection gates, presented their papers, and were soon admitted into the bustling streets beyond. Once inside, his grandfather gently guided him toward the academy gates. "Xiao Xiao," he said, voice soft but steady. "I'll see you to the academy today, and then I'll return home. You're clever and determined. You know how to focus on your studies. I don't need to remind you of much, but whenever you face something you don't understand, think it through carefully before asking for help." Cheng Xiao nodded, eyes shining, and a little red at the thought of being parted from the only family he'd ever known. "I will, grandfather," he promised, voice trembling only slightly. His grandfather offered a warm, encouraging smile, then gently released his hand and watched as Cheng Xiao stepped forward into the academy courtyard, his new clothes crisp, his resolve firmer than ever. He may have been a time traveler, but here, standing beside his grandfather, Cheng Xiao felt every bit at home. Grandpa reached out and ruffled his hair. "All right, lad, enough with the tears. They're precious. Save them only for those you love, and those who love you in return." Cheng Xiao blinked back a few sobs. "I'm not crying, Grandpa. I just don't want to say goodbye." His grandfather laughed, a warm, rolling sound. Still holding Cheng Xiao's hand, he paused a moment to ask directions of a passing stranger. Soon they were heading toward the western edge of Notting City, where the Soul Master Junior College stood. From a distance, the college's entrance came into view, a massive stone arch engraved with 4 grand characters spelling out Notting College. Cheng Xiao's mouth fell open, even as someone who had traveled through time and witnessed marvels he could barely describe. He found himself awed by the simple majesty of this academy. Just a junior college, and yet it was every bit as imposing as the legends had claimed, proof of the Soul Master's exalted place on the Douluo Continent. As they drew closer, Cheng Xiao noticed 2 figures already waiting in line to register. An elderly gentleman in a well-worn coat stood beside a small boy clutching a satchel. They exchanged polite nods, each sizing up the others as they prepared to step through Notting College's storied gates and begin the next chapter of their lives. "Are you here to register as work-study students?" the college concierge asked, eyeing the 2 newcomers in their simple, well-worn clothes. Before Grandpa Cheng could answer, Cheng Xiao stepped forward with quiet confidence. "Good afternoon. I'm here to enroll, and this is my Wuhun certificate." He placed a neatly folded parchment on the desk. The seal, a deep crimson impression, was unmistakable. It's personally stamped by Master Su Yuntao, the deacon of Wuhun Hall. The concierge picked up the certificate and studied it closely, then glanced back at the 2 villagers. Notting College hadn't admitted work-study students for years, and certainly none from a remote village. Still, the seal looked genuine, and no one would dare fake the Wuhun Hall's mark. He folded the parchment with a measured nod. He wasn't questioning their credentials. He'd seen enough official scrolls to know a real seal when he saw one. What he did see was an opportunity. City families, especially those without influence or wealthy patrons, were prime targets for extra fees and expedited services. With these 2 obviously unaccustomed to college bureaucracy, he could almost taste the extra income. He forced a polite smile. "Very well," he said smoothly. "We'll process your registration, but you should know there are additional fees for room assignments and meal plans. I'll prepare the forms." As he turned to fetch the paperwork, he allowed himself a quiet, greedy smile. 2 innocent country lads, this was going to be profitable. Cheng Xiao knew exactly how to proceed. The moment he spoke, he casually dropped the name of Wuhun Hall's deacon and made a point of saying that his letter was sealed by Master Su Yuntao himself. Notting City was small. Surely even the gatekeeper had heard of Su Yuntao. The man's smug expression vanished the instant those words left Cheng Xiao's lips. He snatched the martial spirit certificate from Cheng Xiao's hand and scrutinized it. Martial spirit, shadow soldier, innately brimming with soul power? Cheng Xiao gave a firm nod. Yes, innately brimming with soul power. The gatekeeper's eyes went wide with surprise, his earlier mockery replaced by sudden respect. His voice trembled as he managed. "Sir, may I let you in?" "Please do," Cheng Xiao said with a friendly smile. "Yes, of course." With that, the gatekeeper practically leapt aside and swung open the heavy iron gates. As Cheng Xiao stepped onto the academy grounds, Grandpa Cheng allowed himself a satisfied smile. He cast a quick glance at old Jack and Tang San, still detained at the entrance, then turned and departed without another word. "You're making this difficult on purpose." Tang San's voice rang out sharply. The doorman froze for a moment, then turned to old Jack with a sneer. "Why don't you two paupers move along? Must I throw you out myself?" Beside Jack, Tang San remained unnervingly calm. "Then explain why you let that man inside," he said, nodding toward a well-dressed stranger who just passed through the gate. "If you think my spirit-taming certificate is forged, why accept his as genuine?" He met the doorman's glare without flinching. "Or is it simply because my martial spirit is blue-silver grass that you've decided to make things difficult for us?" Though he looked no older than a boy, Tang San had once been a disciple of the Tang sect. His left hand brushed the silent sleeve arrow hidden in his glove, a deadly reminder of the Tang sect's Xuantian treasure record. It warned that once you've identified an enemy, you must strike swiftly and without mercy. Hesitation only invites disaster. To Tang San, the doorman's blatant prejudice reeked of contempt, and he had no intention of letting it stand. Tang San's jaw clenched in frustration. They were all just part-time students, so why was the stranger's martial spirit certificate considered legitimate while his own was declared a forgery? Even more maddening, this doorman had stood by silently while the brute tormented old Jack, cruelty deserving of death. If the guard hadn't interfered, Tang San would already have an arrow lodged in that man's throat, and he was certain no one would ever know it was his doing. Without witnesses or evidence, who could prove foul play? "Damn brat, you're looking for death!" The doorman, enraged that a child dared speak back, lunged forward to slap Tang San's face. In an instant, Tang San's eyes flashed cold steel. He swept his left arm forward, drawing a silent sleeve arrow and leveling it at the doorman's windpipe. "Hold it right there! What's going on here?" A hoarse voice cut through the tension, freezing the guard's raised hand and stopping Tang San's arrow just before it flew. When Cheng Xiao heard the voice, he froze in the doorway. He glanced past Tang San and saw a middle-aged man, of average height and somewhat lean, walking slowly in their direction. Chapter 3. You don't want to be my disciple? Old Jack's voice cut through the quiet of the academy gate, leaving Tang San momentarily speechless. He glanced over his shoulder to see who had spoken. Emerging from the courtyard was a man in his 40s, with thick lips, a close-cropped crew cut, and a day's stubble. He carried an air of careless ease, slightly slouched, almost sloppy, yet undeniably important. At the sight of him, the guard who had been barring Tang San's entry instantly lowered his raised hand. The scowl vanished from his face, replaced by a deferential smile. "Master Jack, you're back," he greeted. Old Jack merely nodded at the guard, then shifted his gaze to Cheng Xiao, who had just passed inside the academy grounds but lingered by the gate. Finally, his eyes settled on Tang San. As village chief, he knew how to read expressions, and the guard's relief told him all he needed to know. This man was no ordinary visitor. The guard stepped forward and offered his martial spirit certificate. "Master Jack, here's what happened just now." Old Jack took the certificate without ceremony, his attention already returning to Tang San. The midday sun glinted off the academy's stone walls, and a hush fell over the few onlookers gathered nearby. Tang San felt his heart pound in his chest as he waited for old Jack's next words, and with them, the verdict on his future as a disciple. The academy official examined the certificate in his hand one last time, then looked up at old Jack with a formal nod. "This martial spirit certificate is genuine, sir. On behalf of the academy, I apologize for the misunderstanding just now. The boy is yours." Old Jack's eyes widened in surprise at the apology from such a high-ranking figure. His cheeks flushed as he waved a dismissive hand. "Master, you honor me. If you'll take Tang San under your care, I'd be truly grateful." The official inclined his head, and with a few curt instructions from old Jack to Tang San, the old man turned and walked away. Once old Jack was out of sight, the academy official's expression hardened. He strode over to the doorman, who was still hovering nervously by the iron gate. "This is your first and only warning. If you ever attempt such a scheme again, I'll inform the dean, and you can collect your resignation." The doorman swallowed hard and bobbed his head fervently, beads of sweat gleaming on his brow. Master Wang forced a polite smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He set the certificate on a nearby table, then offered his hand to Tang San and pointed toward Cheng Xiao, who was just stepping beyond the gate. "And what about him? Is he your part-time student as well?" Tang San followed the gesture and watched Cheng Xiao's departing figure. He shook his head. "No, sir, he isn't. He followed me inside, but when the gatekeeper glanced at his martial spirit certificate, he let him pass without hesitation." Tang San whispered, tugging gently on the master's sleeve as they entered Notting College. The master offered a knowing smile, eyes flicking to the boy ahead. "I gathered as much," he replied softly. Judging by how easily the young student had been admitted, despite the gatekeeper's usual strictness, his martial spirit must be quite remarkable. Cheng Xiao strolled in front of them, his pace unhurried as he took in the sprawling campus for the first time. Each new building caught his eye, and he paused often, as if committing every detail to memory. After a moment, the master released Tang San's hand and fell in step beside Cheng Xiao. "Little friend," the master said, bending down slightly to meet Cheng Xiao's gaze. "Are you a part-time student here this year as well?" Cheng Xiao straightened and offered a respectful nod. "Yes, sir. My name is Cheng Xiao. I'm a part-time student from Chengjia Village." The master shook his head with an amused smile. "I'm not actually a teacher at the academy," he said, his voice light. Tang San, now standing on the master's other side, cocked his head thoughtfully. "If you're not a teacher, yet everyone calls you master, you must be one of the academy's leaders, right?" The master chuckled, a warm melodic sound. "You're sharp for a child, I'll give you that. But no, I'm neither a teacher nor a leader of the academy." Cheng Xiao tilted her head in mock puzzlement. "If you're not an instructor at the academy, why does everyone call you master?" Master Yu rose from his seat, his posture composed and regal. "My name is Yu, though I admit I've long forgotten it. People simply refer to me as master. I'm nothing more than a guest here, eating, drinking, and passing through." A faint glimmer of amusement danced in his eyes. "You should understand that master and teacher are distinct titles, so don't confuse them, unless, of course, you're prepared to formally take me as your master and let me assume the role of your teacher." Tang San's eyes lit up. "Take you as our master? You mean teach us how to cultivate our martial spirits?" Master Yu held Tang San's gaze a moment longer, then asked softly, "Then, are you willing?" Tang San fell silent. He glanced at Cheng Xiao, who stood quietly at Yu's side, then met the master's expectant look. The offer hung in the air as he weighed his answer, neither conceding nor refusing, for now. "It seems I must insist," the master said, folding his arms. "After all, you're the first twin martial spirit we've encountered in a century." Tang San stiffened, shock flickering in his eyes. With a soft click, he flipped the safety catch on his hidden sleeve arrow, his gaze sharp and wary. Noticing the change in Tang San's expression, the master calmly retrieved the boy's martial spirit certificate. "Relax, young one," he said, his tone even. "I mean you no harm. I deduced your dual spirits the moment I saw this document. If I'd missed it, I wouldn't deserve to be called a master." Tang San's shoulders eased and his features softened. He opened his mouth to speak, but before a word came out, Cheng Xiao interjected. "Master, why don't we discuss this while we walk?" she suggested with a light shrug, clearly uninterested in further exposition. Tang San shot her a questioning look, but said nothing as the three of them set off together. "All right, let's talk as we walk." The master glanced at Cheng Xiao, whose face remained impassive. Doesn't he appreciate the importance of the spirit-soul theory? Here was a boy as perceptive as Tang San, yet he refused to listen. Of course, he didn't even know my name, nor the value of my 10 core doctrines. With that thought, the master slowed his pace, deliberately unfolding each principle of the spirit-soul without hurrying. His tone was clear and measured, every concept presented with care. For a long while, Cheng Xiao said nothing, brows unmoved and interest nowhere to be found. Realizing that no amount of theoretical appeal would win Cheng Xiao's ear, the master turned to Tang San. After all, a young man blessed with twin spirit souls was a treasure worth cultivating. He revisited each of his 10 core theories, speaking no faster than was necessary and choosing simple examples so that even a novice might grasp their true power. Tang San listened in growing awe. The steadiness of the master's voice, the depth of his insight, Everything spoke of a veteran warrior whose understanding went far beyond mere technique. Suddenly, Tang San halted, stepped back, and let himself fall to his knees. He bowed his head, forehead touching the ground in 3 resounding kowtows. When he rose, his eyes shone with resolve. "Master," he said, voice steady but his heart hammering, "I humbly ask you to accept me as your disciple." Master Yu watched with growing satisfaction as Tang San knelt and kowtowed before him. Such a fool, he thought with a private smile, and yet what promise he holds. A twin martial spirit prodigy like him will prove once and for all that Yu Xiaogang is no failure. Bending forward, he reached out and helped Tang San to his feet. "You needn't kneel so low," he said kindly. "A simple bow will suffice to seal our teacher-disciple bond." Tang San stood and offered a crisp, respectful bow. "A teacher is like a father," he replied earnestly. "Since you have agreed to instruct me, you deserve my highest reverence." Master Yu nodded approvingly, then turned to the young woman who lingered at the edge of the courtyard, Cheng Xiao. After a brief pause, he asked, "And you, child, will you also become my disciple?" Cheng Xiao stepped forward, her expression composed. "Master Yu, I have witnessed the breadth of your knowledge and speak with utmost respect," she said. "However, I find that the pure theory of martial spirits does not truly interest me. I must decline your generous offer." Yu Xiaogang regarded her thoughtfully. "Very well," he said at last. "One's path must be chosen freely. May you both flourish in whatever direction you take. If you really don't want to, child, I won't force you." The master shook his head regretfully, then turned to Tang San. "Xiao-san, let's go register at the Academic Affairs office." He took Tang San's hand and strode off toward the office, completely ignoring Cheng Xiao. He was certain that, under his instruction in spirit theory, Tang San would soon distance himself from that other boy and realize how mistaken his choice had been. Cheng Xiao watched them go, shrugged, and followed along. After all, wasn't the whole point of coming to Spirit Master Academy to learn the theory? Chapter 4. I don't know how to fight nodding. Junior Soul Master Academy looked more imposing than it actually was. Guided by his master, Tang San reached the Academic Affairs office in no time. He presented his soul certificate, freshly issued by the Soul Hall, completed the necessary paperwork, and officially enrolled as a first-year student. "Xiao-san, I have some business to attend to," his master said lightly, once Tang San stepped away from the clerk. "I'll be off for now. Come find me when you need me." "Understood, teacher," Tang San replied with a respectful nod. The master tousled Tang San's hair, then paused at the door to look back at him. During the registration, he had seen the details on Tang San's soul certificate: Beast Soul, Shadow Soldier, and Innate Full Soul Power. To any eye but his, that list might look ordinary, but to a soul theory master, it screamed genius. With that combination, under proper theoretical guidance, Tang San's future achievements could easily rival even a titled Douluo. It was precisely because he was such an expert in soul theory that he found Tang San's lack of interest in the subject so ironic. A master eager to take on disciples, only to have one so indifferent to his life's work, was a tempting contradiction. Yet he didn't press the issue. Patience, he reminded himself. One day, Tang San would see the value in theory. And when he did, there would be no holding him back. Ever since they'd begun training their martial spirits, the distance between Tang San and Cheng Xiao had only grown. Tang San still found it hard to accept that Cheng Xiao would never revere him as his master. When their mentor departed, Director Su, the man who'd registered them, looked momentarily surprised to see the two boys together, but he said nothing. He simply handed each of them a fresh school uniform and returned to his paperwork. "Thank you," Cheng Xiao said politely, accepting his uniform. Together, they left the Academic Affairs office. Clutching their new attire, they followed the directions Director Su had given them and soon arrived at Dormitory 7, the building reserved for part-time students. As they neared the door, muffled laughter and shouts spilled into the corridor. Pushing it open, they discovered 7 or 8 students wrestling and roughhousing inside, completely oblivious to the newcomers. "Hey, are you the new part-time students?" One of the older boys strolled over to them. Cheng Xiao's eyes narrowed, sizing up the newcomer, while Tang San remained silent, his expression calm. "Yeah, that's us," Cheng Xiao replied coolly. "What's it to you?" The tall youth chuckled and looked them over with a smirk. You're assigned to Dormitory 7 now, so you'll follow our rules. I'm Wang Sheng. My spirit beast is the battle tiger, and I'm destined to be a battle spirit master. In other words, I'm the boss around here. Now you two, state your names and your spirit beasts. Cheng Xiao and Tang San exchanged a quick glance before replying in turn. I'm Cheng Xiao. My spirit is shadow. Tang San, blue silver grass. Wang Sheng burst into mocking laughter. Shadow and blue silver grass? Those sound like joke spirits. His derisive tone set off a ripple of laughter among the other dormmates. They all turned to stare at Tang San and Cheng Xiao as if they were a pair of clowns. Blue silver grass and shadow. How could such pathetic spirits compare to his mighty battle tiger? All right, enough laughing, Wang Sheng snapped, waving his hand at Cheng Xiao and Tang San. Now that you two are in Dormitory 7, you'll do exactly as I say. Understood? With that, he reached out and shoved Tang San, clearly the easier target, while completely ignoring the boy standing beside him. After all, bullies pick on those who seem least likely to fight back, and to Wang Sheng, Tang San fit the bill perfectly. Tang San set down his luggage and folded the school uniform he'd been carrying. If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get, he murmured. In an instant, he slipped behind Wang Sheng. His right arm coiled, like a spring, and before the other boy could even register the move, Tang San drove an elbow into Wang Sheng's waist and followed up with a swift kick to the calf. Wang Sheng hit the ground hard. You, how dare you sneak attack me? Wang Sheng roared as he scrambled up. A faint yellow aura shimmered around him, the telltale sign he was activating his martial spirit. With unexpected speed, he launched himself at Tang San. Cheng Xiao watched the scene unfold, shaking his head. Wang Sheng was still young, hot-headed and quick to anger, and clearly hadn't learned that underestimating someone like Tang San could backfire. Though Tang San could easily have dispatched Wang Sheng on his own, he refused to fight solo. Cheng Xiao leapt in to help, and together they squared off against Wang Sheng, the self-styled boss of the 7th dormitory, and his loyal underlings. Since accepting the Shadow King's power and dedicating the last 3 months to relentless training, Cheng Xiao's physique had reached new heights. None of these dormmates, even those not yet first-ring soul masters, stood a chance. Surrounded by a tightening circle of adversaries, Cheng Xiao flexed his fingers into a fist and struck first. He lunged at the nearest boy, who hastily raised his arms in defense. With a subtle twist of his head, Cheng Xiao drove his knuckles into the boy's abdomen, then withdrew just as swiftly. Before the others could react, he spun on his heel and dashed toward the next unsuspecting opponent, each movement precise and decisive. A sharp cry of "Ah!" rang out as Cheng Xiao closed in on his next target. Don't hit someone in the face. Anyone's face. Boss, help me. Ah! Their frantic cries cut through the dormitory just as Tang San, having finished teaching Wang Sheng a lesson, turned to survey the chaos. 3 or 4 boys lay scattered on the floor, clutching sore limbs and wailing in pain. The rest cowered at the edge of the room, too terrified to even breathe. All the while, Cheng Xiao, the architect of this ambush, strode over to an empty bunk, tossed down his luggage and school uniform, and began smoothing out the sheets as if nothing had happened. Wang Sheng's face went pale. He stared helplessly at his beaten friends, voice trembling. It wasn't me. Cheng Xiao ordered this. Without looking up, Cheng Xiao called, Wang Sheng, come help me make the bed. Obediently, Wang Sheng sprang to his feet, plastered on an ingratiating smile, and bustled over to fluff pillows and straighten sheets. Tang San shook his head in mild disbelief, selected the nearest vacant bunk, and set about making his own bed as well. Tang San, was that a soul skill you just used? Wang Sheng's tone had lost all its earlier arrogance. After being soundly beaten, he and his men spoke more respectfully, clearly recognizing that neither Tang San nor Cheng Xiao was to be taken lightly. Wang Sheng cleared his throat and explained the duties of the work-study monitor, then promptly nominated Cheng Xiao for the role. After all, the way Cheng Xiao had dispatched them was still fresh in his mind. But Cheng Xiao merely shook his head at the flattery. No, he said firmly. The dormitory monitor should be Tang San. Wang Sheng exhaled in resignation. All right, Tang San it is. His gaze shifted expectantly to Tang San, who instinctively raised a hand to refuse. Then he caught sight of the hopeful looks on Wang Sheng and his companions' faces. A familiar sense of duty welled up in him, the imperative to shield the weak, to stand for justice. After all, he was a disciple of the Tang sect. How could he turn his back on righteousness? Tang San was about to agree when a crisp voice echoed from the corridor. "Pardon me, does this lead to the 7th dormitory?" Everyone turned toward the door to see a little girl standing hesitantly in the frame. Her cheeks were flushed pink, and a single scorpion braid fell all the way past her hips. Her large, shimmering eyes brimmed with curiosity as she peered inside. None of the boys had ever seen anyone quite like her before. They odd frozen, voices caught in midair. Even Cheng Xiao spared her a quick glance, though he barely registered her appearance. After all, Xiaowu was only 6 years old. Could a child that young really be so beautiful? Chapter 5. A Touch of Boxing Knowledge. Tang San leaned close to Wang Sheng and whispered, "Can boys and girls really room together here?" Wang Sheng gave a quick nod and lowered his voice as he outlined the academy's dormitory rules. Once he'd finished, he flashed a mischievous grin. "Boss, go on. Hit her. Make it count. Give her something to remember." Tang San's cheeks heated. He hated the idea of roughing up a girl, but Wang Sheng's relentless teasing left him little choice. With a reluctant sigh, he stepped forward. Opposite him stood a petite girl with an easy smile. "I'm Xiaowu, Dancing Wu," she introduced herself, her voice light as a silk ribbon. Her sweetness made Tang San's throat dry. He swallowed and quickly explained the academy's custom. Whoever won this spar would secure the title of dormitory boss. Then, steadying himself, he gave his name. "Tang San, I challenge you." Xiao Wu's eyes sparkled. She slipped off her school jacket and tossed it aside. "All right, let's see what you've got." In the next heartbeat, Xiao Wu was on him, swift, graceful strikes that forced Tang San immediately onto the defensive. He parried and lunged, testing her timing, but she danced around him with enviable ease. Round after round, Tang San found himself outpaced. His guard wavered. His reaction slowed under her unrelenting assault. From the sidelines, the dorm's prefect, Qi She, watched intently, and already knew how this match would end. With one final, precise tap to Tang San's chest, Xiao Wu ended the duel. Panting, Tang San stood frozen, astonished. Qi Shi's quiet smile confirmed it. Dancing Wu had claimed victory, and the position of dormitory boss, without breaking a sweat. Tang San had been an adult in his previous life, so how was it that he just stood there, blushing and flustered, after losing a duel to a little girl like Xiao Wu? It seemed absurd, but a loss was a loss. Though he bit back his protests, a stubborn promise formed in his mind. Next time, he would win. Xiao Wu dusted off her hands and grinned. "According to dorm rules, the winner becomes boss, so from now on, I'm in charge." "Boss?" Tang San's eyes widened in disbelief. "Sounds fun. Okay, you're the boss. Now who'll show her around the school?" Wang Sheng and the others gaped at Tang San. No one had expected the new boss to be displaced before he'd even celebrated. When they still stood rooted to the spot, Xiao Wu pouted, scanned the room, and at last fixed her gaze on the boy sitting on the upper bunk. He'd caught her eye the moment she walked in. Handsome, calm, unknown. With a mischievous smile, she called out, "Hey, you up there! Can you give me a tour?" "Hey, you on the bed, come over here and tell me about the school." Cheng Xiao looked up, startled to find every pair of eyes in the dorm fixed on him. Some glinted with worry, others with envy. They all knew Xiao Wu's reputation as a fierce fighter, yet she was still a girl, and a very attractive one at that. It wasn't every day that a pretty female guest showed up in a boy's dormitory. Who wouldn't be envious of the guy she singled out? "You called me?" Cheng Xiao asked, puzzled. He glanced over at Tang San, whose faint aura of blue-silver grass should have grabbed her interest instead. "My name's Cheng Xiao," he continued, clearing his throat. "I'm a new work-study student, just like you. I really don't know the ins and outs of this school yet. Why not ask Wang Sheng over there? He seems to know everything about campus life." Xiao Wu's expression darkened. "I don't need him. You're in charge here now," she said, crossing her arms. "So don't you dare ignore what the boss tells you." Cheng Xiao suppressed a groan. He'd hoped to defer to the plain-looking Wang Sheng, but it seemed Xiao Wu preferred him to speak on her behalf, much to the envy of every other boy in the room. Wang Sheng gritted his teeth and rose to his feet. "Boss, Cheng Xiao just arrived." Shall I go tell you? I don't care, Xiao Wu replied with a sulky pout, turning her gaze on Cheng Xiao. It's fine if you'd rather or stay silent, but you have to spar with me. Wang Sheng, who'd been hoping to leave a good impression on Cheng Xiao, fell silent. Cheng Xiao was undeniably powerful. He'd beaten his own younger brother. Yet, Xiao Wu's dogged insistence suggested she might be even stronger. After all, Tang San had managed to defeat Cheng Xiao, but he'd never managed to overcome Xiao Wu herself. A match between Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu was, to Wang Sheng's mind, inevitable. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Cheng Xiao sighed. I understand you're the boss, but I don't even know how your school's sparring rules work. I've never fought like this before. Xiao Wu flashed her silver fangs in a playful grin. No excuses. I insist on this fight. It was both blessing and curse. With Xiao Wu that determined, Cheng Xiao knew he had no choice but to accept. Cheng Xiao slid off the bed, spreading his hands in a gesture of exasperation. Fine, if you want to fight, go ahead. But once it's over, whether you win or lose, don't come bugging me. Xiao Wu snorted. We'll see about that, she said, planting her feet and bending her right knee. In a heartbeat, her foot whipped toward Cheng Xiao's chin. He rocked to his left, narrowly dodging the strike, and seized her ankle with a quick snap of his right hand. Using her own momentum against her, he heaved her clean off her feet and tossed her over his hip. Xiao Wu twisted in midair, pressing both palms to the floor as she landed. She spun, driving her free leg in a reverse kick, only to have it caught by Cheng Xiao's left hand. In the same instant, he released his grip on her other ankle, and her body went slack. With a sharp thud, she hit the ground on her tailbone. Ouch, she groaned, curling inward and clutching her backside, her features puckered in pain. Holy shit! Cheng Xiao actually beat the boss! Wang Sheng and the others gaped in disbelief. Xiao Wu, unbeaten until now, even the mighty Tang San had fallen to her, had just been routed by Cheng Xiao. And not only had he won, he'd done it effortlessly, without so much as pausing to savor the victory. Cheng Xiao stepped forward, offering his hand to the stunned Xiao Wu. Sorry about that. I guess I got a bit too intense. He smiled wryly. Why don't we call this round off? I was sloppy. Rubbing her sore backside, Xiao Wu hauled herself to her feet. Cheng Xiao added quietly, Remember our deal. Win or lose, no hard feelings, right? Xiao Wu's eyes blazed. She stomped her foot, planted her hands on her hips, and shot back. I never agreed to any deal. Wang Sheng and the others exchanged glances, then shook their heads as one. Nope. We didn't hear any deal. Xiao Wu sniffed triumphantly. See? I didn't agree. With a polite nod, Cheng Xiao turned and walked off toward his bed, leaving her protests hanging in the air. Xiao Wu scowled, but her steps remained surprisingly light, as if the soreness in her rear had already vanished. She hopped onto the empty bed beside Cheng Xiao and asked with genuine curiosity, Cheng Xiao, you said you wouldn't fight, remember? Cheng Xiao glanced at her and shrugged. I'm really no fighter. I only know a few boxing moves and basic kicks. He straightened in his seat and called out, New part-time student, come on in. At that moment, a man in his 30s stepped into the room carrying two neatly folded quilts, with a single pillow nestled between them. Cheng Xiao, Tang San, and Xiao Wu rose to their feet. Name's Mo Hen, Teacher Mo, he announced, handing the two quilts to Cheng Xiao and Tang San. Here's the bedding the Academy has issued you. The quilts were crisp and unused, their fabric untouched. Since you're part-time students, you'll be responsible for cleaning the garden above the playground. You'll earn 10 copper soul coins each day, provided the garden is spotless. If you skip a day or slack off, I'll have to deduct from your pay. Cheng Xiao, Tang San, and Xiao Wu nodded in unison. With the instructions delivered, Teacher Mo gave a brief nod and quietly exited, leaving the trio to settle into their new quarters and their first assignment. Cheng Xiao stood in the middle of the dormitory, holding the extra bedding, his brow creased in confusion. Had the Academy really singled him out just because he'd been born with full soul power? Tang San, who'd been hovering nearby, didn't question it. He simply took one of the quilts and spread it neatly across his bed. Xiao Wu stared at Cheng Xiao's quilt, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Mo Hen had only brought 2 quilts for the 4 of them, and they'd ended up with Cheng Xiao and Tang San. That left Xiao Wu quiltless. Wang Sheng and a few of the part-time students immediately offered their own patchwork blankets, but when Xiao Wu saw how tattered and thin they were, she politely declined. Noticing that Cheng Xiao hadn't even made his bed yet, Xiao Wu's eyes lit up with an idea. She stepped over and gave him her brightest smile. "Cheng Xiao, let's work something out." He looked at her, puzzled. "Work out? What?" Xiao Wu tilted her head and looked him straight in the eye. "Your quilt is enormous. Why don't we push our beds together and share it? That way, Tang-san, you and I can all stay warm and no one's left out." Chapter 6. Do I need a teacher to learn theory? Use together? Cheng Xiao blinked in disbelief at her bold proposal. Xiao Wu's cheeks flushed, but she straightened, refusing to back down. After all, she was the only girl in the entire dormitory. She wasn't about to let a little teasing intimidate her. "I'm not scared of you," she snapped, crossing her arms. "What are you so afraid of? Afraid of a girl? You're such a coward." Cheng Xiao sputtered, but no words came. Nearby, Wang Sheng and the others exchanged envious glances. Only Xiao Wu could get away with calling out their leader like that. Seizing the moment, she marched over to the beds. "All right, let's make the beds," she declared. With a quick shove, she pushed the two single beds together, then smoothed the blankets with a self-satisfied clap. Turning back to Cheng Xiao, she gave him a triumphant little wave. Cheng Xiao stared at the newly joined beds, heart pounding. If she really sleeps next to me, what will Tang-san think? Before he could form an answer, Wang Sheng's voice cut through the air. "Boss Cheng, Tang-san, Sister Xiao Wu. It's noon, let's go grab some lunch." Tang-san rubbed his empty pockets and shook his head. "I don't have any money." Silence fell as everyone stared at him. Xiao Wu bit her lip, glancing between Tang-san and Cheng Xiao. This was about to get interesting. "I'll just snack on some dry food back in the dorm," Tang-san said with a shrug. "You two go on ahead and eat." Xiao Wu's eyes widened. "Huh? Soul coins? Are those what we're paying with?" Her innocent question made Wang Shenghao flush bright red. Only now did he realize how penniless Tang-san and Xiao Wu really were. If he couldn't cover the bill, he'd be utterly humiliated. He leaned toward Cheng Xiao and whispered, "Hey, you said you had some money. Can you spare a little?" Cheng Xiao glanced down at his hand. "Just a bit. Grandpa gave me enough for a meal or two." "That's something," Wang Shenghao exclaimed, relief flooding his face. "But it only covers 2 people. Tang-san, Xiao Wu, you have to come with us." Cheng Xiao shook his head. "No, thanks. I don't like owing favors." "Come on," Wang Shenghao urged, grabbing both of them by the shoulders. "Dinner's on us. Xiao Wu, Tang-san, let's go." Tang-san hesitated, searching for a polite refusal, but finally gave in with a nod. "All right, lead the way." Tang Hao had spent his family's entire savings on wine and was flat broke, but he'd never turned down a free meal. Xiao Wu's big, watery eyes widened as she watched Wang Sheng in action. His heroism only deepened her admiration. Yet what fascinated her most was Cheng Xiao, who, not like the rest, actually paid for his own lunch. Everyone here was new, and as a work-study student, Cheng Xiao naturally stood out. A few minutes later, under Wang Sheng's lead, Qi Shi and their classmates filed into the cafeteria. The hall was immense, with seating for 300 students and teachers from all 6 classes. No sooner had they taken their first steps inside than a jeering voice cut through the midday chatter. "Look, if it isn't the poor work-study students, Wang Sheng, do you even deserve to eat in here?" Qi Shi and the others froze, glancing up toward the second-floor staircase. A gaggle of upperclassmen had gathered there, grimacing down at them. At their forefront stood Xiao Chenyu, one of Nottingham College's most notorious bullies, arms crossed and satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. It wasn't just luck that set Wang Sheng apart. It helped that his father was well connected. Standing at the cafeteria entrance, Xiao Chenyu sneered, "Listen up, you work-study poor kids. This life you'll only ever eat on the first floor." His cronies burst into harsh laughter. The work-study students around them kept their heads down, painfully aware they didn't have wealthy families or powerful patrons. They couldn't even afford the pricier dishes upstairs. Xiao Wu's cheeks flushed with anger. She snapped back. "Who do you think you are? What's so special about the second floor?" Xiao Chenyu smiled condescendingly. "Aw, listen to the little lowly get mad. Too bad you're still a work-study student. Tonight, I'm going up to the second floor. You poor slobs can line up down here first." With that, he and his boys strutted toward the staircase leading to the upscale dining hall, triumphant grins on their faces. Xiao Wu braced to chase after them, but Tang San gently caught her arm. "Let it go," he murmured. "We'll find another way." Xiao Wu's eyes blazed, but she said nothing more. Together, they turned back toward the first-floor line, determined not to let Xiao Chenyu's taunts spoil their evening. "Forget it, Xiao Wu. We're here to eat." Tang San held up his hands, wanting to end the argument. Xiao Wu shot him an irritated look. "Afraid of a little trouble? He's been picking on us. Am I not doing the right thing by standing up for us?" Cheng Xiao stepped between them, voice calm. "You're right to defend yourselves, but this isn't the moment. There'll be plenty of chances later." Xiao Wu frowned, considering. "I suppose you have a point." Tang San nodded, though inwardly he bristled at the thought of backing down. He reminded himself of the Tang sect's code. Discipline and timing mattered most. As he stood there, he spotted a familiar face in the crowd and hurried forward. "Teacher, you're here to eat too?" The master smiled and ruffled Tang San's hair. "Yes, Xiao San. Since you're here, come upstairs with me." Upstairs? Tang San glanced toward the restaurant's second floor, where white linen tables were set for private dining. He exchanged looks with Xiao Wu and Cheng Xiao, then followed his master toward the stairs, curiosity and excitement bubbling in his chest. Xiao Chenyu's mocking words still rang in Tang San's ears as he watched Cheng Xiao and the others file into the cafeteria. He hesitated a moment, then cleared his throat. "Instructor, I'd prefer to eat with my roommates today." The instructor nodded. "Very well. After you're finished, wait for me at the cafeteria entrance." With that, he turned and climbed the stairs to the second floor. As soon as the instructor disappeared from view, Wang Sheng reached over and tapped Cheng Xiao on the shoulder. Cheng Xiao was next in line at the food counter. "Boss Cheng," he whispered, "does Tang San really know our instructor well?" Cheng Xiao gave a small nod. "More than knows him, Tang San's become his disciple." "What, Tang San actually apprenticed to him?" Wang Sheng's voice dropped even lower. At that moment, Tang San, who had just taken his tray, overheard the conversation and frowned. "Wang Sheng, what's wrong with my apprenticing to him?" Wang Sheng shifted uncomfortably. "It's not that there's anything wrong with it, but your instructor's not exactly the most powerful cultivator around. I heard he's only staying at our academy because he's on good terms with the dean." Tang San met Wang Sheng's eyes calmly. "Strength isn't everything. I'm confident in my choice." He turned away, determined not to let idle rumors cloud his judgment. To put it mildly, he's a freeloader, 50 years old and still stuck at level 29, Wang Sheng said with a smirk. "My advice, find another teacher." Tang San's eyes narrowed. He fixed Wang Sheng with a cold stare. "If you don't want me knocking you down a peg again, keep your opinions about my master to yourself." Wang Sheng's smile faltered. Fair enough. No need to lecture me." Without another word, Tang San turned and strode toward the stairs leading up to the second-floor dining hall. He had worried that joining his master for dinner might rile his roommates, but after that outburst, he frankly didn't care. Wang Sheng stood there, stunned. Xiao Wu and the others in line exchanged puzzled looks. After all, they'd all been at Notting College for years. Could a brand-new work-study student really be so easily taken in? "Cheng Xiao," Xiao Wu whispered, "has Tang San always been like this?" Cheng Xiao shook his head. "I haven't the foggiest. We're not close, just happened to cross paths on campus." "Boss Cheng, you said Tang San enrolled at the academy with you," Wang Sheng said, his eyes brightening as if a light bulb had gone off over his head. "He even accepted the master as his teacher, so why haven't you done the same?" The other work-study students, including Xiao Wu, turned to watch Cheng Xiao's reaction. She merely shrugged. "No thanks," Cheng Xiao answered coolly. "When I joined the school, the master did offer to take me on as his disciple. I politely declined." Her breezy refusal sent whispers rippling through the Qi sect students. They unpacked their lunchboxes and huddled together, speaking in low voices as they dissected the master's latest proposal. "Lucky you, Boss Cheng," Wang Sheng said around a mouthful of steamed bun. "You're not tangled up in all that soul theory nonsense. What he calls Soul Master's doctrine is basically the same martial arts theory we get in class, just less precise." "Exactly," another student chimed in. We already learn all the fundamental theory from our instructors. Who in their right mind would apprentice under someone who can't even teach it properly? Why did he bother coming here at all? Boss Cheng Xiao, a third added, you two are natural prodigies. Don't go buying whatever wild ideas the master is selling. We have a library at Notting College for studying theory, one of the girls commented around the lunch table. If you don't understand something, you can always ask the professor during class. There's really no need to seek them out afterward. The work-study students from Chisha sat together over steaming bowls of vegetable soup and freshly made buns, their voices low as they passed along the latest campus gossip. Whispers wove through the air, igniting a quiet buzz of excitement. Xiao Wu, perched beside Cheng Xiao, leaned forward to catch every juicy detail. Cheng Xiao, however, remained silent. She calmly unwrapped her bun and took a bite, her expression unreadable. The contrast between the lively chatter around her and her own steady composure intrigued Xiao Wu more with each passing second. What was Cheng Xiao thinking? Why did her quiet confidence draw Xiao Wu's curiosity like a magnet? Chapter 7. The Restless Xiao Wu. Xiao-san, did you have a disagreement with your roommates? Master asked quietly, glancing at Tang-san, who was hungrily tearing into his meal. Master, Tang-san set down the chicken leg, hesitating. He felt his cheeks flush. It's all right. Seeing Tang-san's embarrassment, Master's tone remained calm. I don't pay any mind to those rumors, but you're growing and you shouldn't go hungry. He paused, then continued more firmly. From now on, you'll join me for meals on the second floor. Do not eat with them on the first. Thank you, Master. Tang-san rose and bowed deeply, surprised by the compassion in his teacher's voice. He had feared Master would, like many others, dismiss him because of the gossip swirling through the academy. Instead, Master seemed above such pettiness, a quality Tang-san admired deeply. There's no need for formalities between us, Master said, waving him back to his seat. Just sit and eat. Tang-san returned to the table, relief and gratitude mingling on his face. Here, unlike the barely edible rice porridge he'd survived on in the Holy Soul Village, there was real food, enough to fill his belly. As he began to eat again, he couldn't help but feel that for the first time in a long while, he truly belonged somewhere. Cheng Xiao couldn't shake the warmth left by the morning's encounter with a kindly instructor, one whose encouragement had only strengthened his faith in Master's teachings. After finishing lunch in the first-floor cafeteria, he resisted the urge to return to his dorm. Instead, he made his way to the Notting Junior Soul Master Academy library, determined to prepare himself before attempting his first soul ring hunt. He settled at a long oak table beneath a tall, arched window and began poring over tomes of Soul Beast taxonomy. Since his martial soul was the Shadow King, a force of death and darkness unknown to this realm, Cheng Xiao focused on beasts classified under shadow or death attributes. He studied their habitats, their strengths, and the telltale auras that set them apart from ordinary creatures. By the time he closed the last volume, he could almost see the wisps of inky darkness and smell the damp, silent forests those beasts favored. Heart pounding with anticipation, he returned the books to their shelves and strode out of the library. But he didn't head back to the dormitory. Instead, Cheng Xiao raced straight to the academic affairs office, resolved to find a teacher who would escort him to his first soul ring trial. Tonight, he would claim his birthright and prove that the Shadow King's power was no mere legend. Cheng Xiao stepped up to the door of the academic affairs office, gave it a gentle knock, and called out, "Hello, anyone in there?" A gruff voice answered, "Come on in." Pushing the door open, Cheng Xiao found Director Su seated behind a tidy desk piled with paperwork. The older man looked up, recognized him at once, and offered a warm smile. "You must be Cheng Xiao," he said. "I remember, our new student with innate full soul power. What brings you to my office?" Cheng Xiao returned the smile with a respectful nod. "Director Su, there is something I'd like to discuss." "Of course," Director Su replied, setting aside his documents. He always made time for a student of Cheng Xiao's caliber. "Tell me what you need, and I'll see what I can do." Taking a steady breath, Cheng Xiao met the director's gaze. "I'd like to obtain my first soul ring." Director Su blinked in surprise, leaning forward. "Your first soul ring?" Cheng Xiao stood before Director Su, determination shining in her eyes. "You want to help me claim my first soul ring?" she asked. Director Su shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. "You know," he began, "to awaken a soul ring, you must reach the 10th level of soul power. Without that foundation," he trailing off, realizing his mistake. He'd forgotten that Cheng Xiao was born with full soul power. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Cheng Xiao, of course I understand your equi situation and your eligibility for your first soul ring. But the academy has only just opened. Our instructors are fully occupied with establishing the new curriculum and managing the students. We simply don't have the manpower right now to accompany you into the soul-hunting forest." Cheng Xiao forced a polite nod. "I understand," she said, though disappointment lingered in her voice and in the crease of her brows. Director Su sighed, empathy softening his expression. "I'm truly sorry. Once things settle down, we'll arrange proper accompaniment for you." Before Cheng Xiao could reply, the doors at the back of the office swung open. A tall, distinguished man in a flowing black robe entered. His warm smile put everyone at ease. "Director Su," he greeted respectfully. Then he turned to Cheng Xiao. "You must be Cheng Xiao. I'm Dean Zhao. I've heard about your talent. If you'd like, I can personally escort you into the soul-hunting forest tomorrow." Relief and gratitude washed over Cheng Xiao's face. Director Su's shoulders visibly relaxed as he rose to welcome Dean Zhao. Together they had just solved a problem that had weighed on both their minds and given Cheng Xiao the opportunity she so desperately sought. "Why are you here?" Director Su rose to his feet the moment he spotted the newcomer, hastily saluting before he spoke. This boy was born with full soul power. "All right, Director Su." The man, a middle-aged figure with a calm, authoritative air, brushed off the deference with a wave of his hand and a friendly smile. "I've already reviewed his file. A top-tier beast martial soul, complete soul power from birth. A prodigy like this appearing at Notting College is certainly worth the dean's attention." Director Su's face brightened. "In that case, why don't we go together tomorrow? I've been meaning to lead my disciples on a soul beast hunt to collect soul rings anyway." At that moment, Master Cheng, hands clasped behind his back, stepped into the doorway of the Academic Affairs office, his expression composed and thoughtful. The dean clapped him on the shoulder. "Everything will go smoothly this time, Xiaogang." "Of course," Master Cheng replied quietly. "I've taken on a fine disciple." Though his tone made acceptance of new pupils sound as effortless as discussing martial spirit theory, his gaze flickered toward Cheng Xiao long enough for the young man to catch it. Cheng Xiao said little as he left the office. He still needed to hunt for spirit rings, and having a master's protection would certainly help, though whether he could actually call on that help in the field was another matter. "All right, that's everything," the dean said with a friendly smile. "Get some rest and meet me at the academy gate first thing tomorrow morning." "Understood. Thank you, Dean," Cheng Xiao replied politely before turning and stepping out. Back in the dormitory, he found Xiao Wu stretched out on her bed, idly swinging her legs. On the other bunks, Wang Sheng and the others sat cross-legged, practicing their spirit energy control. Tang San lay still on his own bunk, eyes closed in meditation, as he prepared for the soul ring hunt ahead. Cheng Xiao didn't waste time with idle talk. He sat down, closed his eyes, and began weighing which spirit beast would be best to target at dawn. A careful plan would give him the edge, and hopefully net him a powerful ring. "Hey," Xiao Wu's teasing voice broke the silence. "Why are you acting like Tang San, going to bed so early?" Startled, Cheng Xiao opened his eyes and found her grinning at him. "What?" he said, blinking in surprise. "You haven't fallen asleep at all," Xiao Wu said, watching Cheng Xiao's eyes snap open. She pouted. "What are you doing up so late?" Cheng Xiao sat up, propping his back against the headboard. He looked at her calmly. "Don't tell me you have something to ask me at this hour." "Me? I'm just bored," Xiao Wu mumbled under her breath. Catching her diffidence, Cheng Xiao rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm heading into the soul-hunting forest tomorrow, out to hunt souls," he explained. "I need to turn in early tonight. Is that okay?" "Soul hunting?" Xiao Wu's eyes widened. "Before school even starts, are soul rings really that important?" Cheng Xiao sighed and playfully tapped her forehead. "What do you think? Now go to sleep. I've got an early morning ahead of me." With that, he lay back down under the covers, closing his eyes. Xiao Wu stared at the ceiling, arms folded, clearly displeased, but so was sleep beyond her reach. Xiao Wu watched Cheng Xiao drift off beneath the quilt and bit her lip. "You think you can crawl into bed early tonight?" she thought, determination flaring in her eyes. "Not on my watch." An idea suddenly struck her. With a mischievous grin, Xiao Wu peeled back the covers and slipped in beside her friend. In the dim light, her nimble fingers inched toward Cheng Xiao's waist, and it felt like her scheme was about to succeed. Triumph curved Xiao Wu's lips as she whispered to herself, "Let's see how you handle Sister Xiao Wu now." Author's note: sorry for the late update. Life's been a whirlwind. Chapter 8: Setting Out to Hunt Soul Beasts. Before dawn broke over Notting College, 2 tall figures and 2 shorter silhouettes slipped silently through the main gate. The campus lay wrapped in morning mist and quiet. Most students and faculty were still fast asleep, but this small party was already on the move. "Master, this must be your new apprentice, right?" called out a friendly voice. Dean Manuo emerged from the shadows, smiling as he regarded the young man walking beside his teacher. The older man in black robes inclined his head. "Yes, this is my disciple, Tang San. Although his martial soul is only blue-silver grass, often labeled a useless soul, I maintain that no martial soul is worthless, only soul masters who have yet to unlock their true potential. With my instruction in martial soul theory, he will at least achieve the rank of titled Douluo." Dean Ma chuckled with mild embarrassment. "I certainly hope you're right." One of the shorter students, Cheng Xiao, glanced up curiously. "Dean Ma, how should I address you?" "Ma is my surname, Nuo my given name," the dean replied warmly. "Just call me Dean Ma." "Understood, Dean Ma," Cheng Xiao said, bowing his head respectfully. Dean Ma paused, then added with a grin, "Almost forgot, Cheng Xiao, you have no idea where we're headed to hunt soul beasts, do you?" Cheng Xiao shook his head. "Honestly, I don't." Dean Ma turned toward the faint line of mountains on the horizon, already bathed in the first soft rays of dawn. "Then let's move out. Our hunting grounds lie beyond South Ridge. Stay sharp. Our journey begins now." As the 4 figures set off toward the rising sun, anticipation hummed in the crisp morning air. The hunt for soul beasts, and Tang San's first true test, was about to begin. The sun had just risen over Notting City when Mono gathered his companions at the Eastern Gate District. The streets were already buzzing with stallholders hawking their wares and early risers hurrying to begin their day. "We're off to the soul hunting forest," Mono announced with a smile. "It's 400 miles east of here, and that's where the Empire breeds soul beasts. But before we head out, Master wants us to stock up on supplies." "Supplies?" Cheng Xiao echoed, blinking as the market's bustle came into focus. Then he nodded and followed Mono toward a tented stall. There, the master bought 4 leather water pouches and a mountain of dried provisions, jerked bacon, hard biscuits, dried fruit, even some honey cakes. Tang San hefted a basket full of white radishes, 20 kilograms of them, and nearly toppled over. "Master," he panted, "why do we need so many radishes?" Mano laughed and clapped him on the back. "As Master's friend, I can tell you they're essential for soul beast hunts. You'll see soon enough why these humble roots are priceless when you face a hungry spirit beast in the wild." Master remained silent for a moment, an unusual crease of impatience flickering at the corner of his mouth. He reached out and tousled Tang San's hair. "I'll explain everything later," he said softly. Once they were ready, Dean Manuo arranged a 4-seater carriage within the city gates. With the carriage loaded, the little party set off toward their destination. As they traveled, Master patiently expounded the intricacies of martial spirit theory to Tang San. Partway through the lesson, he produced a silk sash of deep blue and handed it to the boy. Tang San ran his fingers over the fabric's sheen and, moved by the gift, christened it 24 Bridges Moonlit Night. Bound by Tangsek tradition, never to refuse a teacher's present, he accepted it with both reverence and gratitude. Having presented the belt, Master let his gaze drift to Cheng Xiao, silently suggesting that any disciple who formally pledged to him would receive the same honor. To his disappointment, Cheng Xiao merely settled back in the carriage, eyes already drifting shut. Dean Manuo, reins in hand, couldn't help but glance over in puzzlement at the young man's indifference. Cheng Xiao woke the next morning, feeling more exhausted than ever. He hadn't slept a wink, Not because he couldn't, but because Xiao Wu had insisted on keeping him awake with endless tricks. She tried tickling him, playing hide-and-seek in the carriage, even whispered riddles at him until she finally collapsed, exhausted herself. Of course, once Xiao Wu was out cold, Cheng Xiao's mind wouldn't let him rest. He lay awake, worrying about today's soul ring hunt. Their 400-mile journey wasn't painfully long, but it still took the better part of a day. By noon on the following day, the carriage rolled through the gates of Notting City and into the dense stands of the soul-hunting forest. Cheng Xiao, having stolen a few hours of sleep en route, stretched and climbed down after Dean Manuel gave the signal. Almost at once, the forest clearing erupted with noise. Recruiting now! 100-year soul beasts! Form your teams, claim your warrants, 10 gold soul coins per hunter. Power soul hunt starting, 7 per group, warrants issued immediately, soul masters in need of rings step right up. All around him, similar calls rang out, each one more urgent than the last. Merchants hawked potions and spirit-detecting stones, veteran hunters barked orders at new recruits. A handful of young soul masters gaped in awe, clutching their starter weapons. Cheng Xiao paused to take it all in. He'd read about the soul-hunting forest, how dozens of hunting parties competed here every day, how hundreds of soul beasts roamed its depths, and how those beasts' soul rings were the key to a soul master's advancement. Now, standing amid the clamor, he understood how fierce the competition truly was, and how carefully he'd have to choose his first hunt. They called it the soul-hunting forest, but to Cheng Xiao, it felt more like a dungeon raid from an online game, and the soul masters guarding its perimeter sounded more like paid mercenaries than noble warriors. The market just outside the forest gate was a cacophony of shouting vendors and restless adventurers, so Cheng Xiao and his companions made a swift exit once they'd gathered their supplies. As soon as Cheng Xiao stepped beyond the last market stall, the forest loomed before him, its dark canopy stretching endlessly overhead. A familiar thrill stirred in his chest, and he could almost taste the surge of power within him. Is this my shadow power awakening? He wondered, recalling the same electric rush he'd felt when he'd leveled up alone and plunged into a dungeon. Cheng Xiao's connection to the Shadow King worked differently than his friend Cheng Xiaoyu's. Xiaoyu's abilities depended on a game-style system left behind by its designer, a system that itself carried the Shadow King's power. But with the crafting system designer now gone, the Shadow King had found another way to channel his strength, directly into Cheng Xiao. Every time Cheng Xiao grew stronger, the king's energy seeped out in pulses, fusing with Cheng Xiao's own. Before them stood a towering steel fence, easily 10 meters high, its gleaming bars forged thicker than any ordinary prison wall. It formed an impregnable ring around the forest, a clear warning to anyone who might venture in, and perhaps an even greater warning of what waited within. Outside the outer fence, more than 100 imperial soldiers patrolled the perimeter, standing watch over the soul-hunting forest where the Empire kept its captured soul beasts. Dean Mano approached the guarded gate and presented his token. The small black disc was etched with 3 intertwined sigils, a sword at its center, flanked by a hammer and a dragon. After a brief inspection, the sentinel gave the order to swing the barriers wide. You may enter. Cheng Xiao and the others stepped beneath the dense canopy, where shafts of muted light filtered through ancient branches. At once, Dean Mano's usually languid expression sharpened into keen anticipation. He raised his hands to his chest, fingers weaving a precise seal, and spoke the invocation. Luo Sanpao, appear! With a low hum of soul power, 2 golden ray, Nang spiraled up from his ankles, swirling in a ring of violet energy. In an instant, a flash of purple light dissolved into the shape of a curious creature, part pig, part dog. Its soft lavender fur framed enormous, drooping ears, and a pair of deep blue eyes glowed as it scanned the shadowy depths of the forest. Luo Sanpao had arrived. Luo Sanpao looked more like a grotesque caricature than a dog, fat, bloated, and absurdly out of proportion. If he needed a name, Pig Dog suited him perfectly. Cheng Xiao squatted beside the strange creature, ruffling its coarse fur, then glanced up at his master with an amused smile. Master, your martial soul, it's remarkable. It actually separates from your body. His master forced a bitter laugh. Remarkable? He shook his head, The corners of his mouth tugged in wry disappointment. It's a mutation, and not the good kind. My innate soul power is pitifully low, barely half a level. Yet here I am, still slogging away on martial soul theory, trying to make up for it. He paused, eyes drifting to Cheng Xiao. Thank heavens I found such a gifted disciple, full innate soul power and a rare twin martial soul. Once Tang San grows into his strength, who'll dare look down on us? Not Yu Xiaogang, that's for sure. Dean Mano sighed and stepped forward, sympathy in his voice. Cheng Xiao, your master's martial soul truly is unique. From another perspective, he's a genius. It's just unfortunate that fate dealt him such an unpredictable hand. He offered a half-hearted smile, the weight of pity lingering in the air as they all turned their attention back to the odd little pig dog at their feet. All right, enough discussion about my martial soul, the master said, his expression serious. Let's move quickly and hunt down a soul beast. Finding one that matches your martial soul won't be easy. He turned to Luo Sanpao and issued his next command. Sanpao, clear the path ahead. Chapter 9. My vision has never failed. Luo Sanpao gave a little shake of his plump body as he acknowledged his master's command and trotted toward the forest edge. Despite his round belly and stubby legs, he moved with surprising agility, his twitching nose constantly sweeping the air for any hint of prey. Lead the way, the master instructed, gesturing at the path ahead, then turned to Tang San. Xiao-san, you've always wanted to know what my martial spirit is, haven't you? Tang San nodded eagerly. Yes, Shifu. What is it? This is Luo Sanpao, the master explained, patting the creature. His greatest gift is an exceptionally keen sense of smell. He can pick up even the faintest traces of low-level spirit beasts, making him invaluable for our hunts. Reaching into his sleeve, the master produced a short dagger, its blade glinting in a deep azure hue. Only the person who slays a spirit beast can absorb its spirit ring. For your protection, I want you to use this blade. When you find a suitable target, you'll strike the killing blow and claim its ring for yourself. Tang San took the dagger, its cool weight reassuring in his hand. With Luo Sanpao leading the way, he felt the thrill of the hunt surging through him. His master's confidence and the promise of a new spirit ring driving him forward into the shadowy forest beyond. Dean Mano was just extolling how fortunate Tang San was to have become his disciple, but Cheng Xiao barely registered a word of it. Since entering the soul-hunting forest, he'd felt something shift deep within his martial soul, the Shadow King. It was as if the shadowy power had hit a breakthrough point, surging restlessly in his veins, yet he still lacked even his first soul ring. That strange, throbbing sensation refused to be ignored. Cheng Xiao knew that as soon as he found a suitable soul beast, he needed to hunt it down and claim his ring. But for now, he forced the feeling down, determined to stay focused. Sensing his distraction, Dean Mano peered at him with concern. Cheng Xiao, are you all right? Cheng Xiao forced a polite smile. I'm fine, Dean. He didn't mention the odd power stirring in his martial soul. It wasn't that he doubted Mano's sincerity, far from it, but on Douluo Continent, one's martial spirit was a sacred inheritance passed down through blood. Cheng Xiao's own spirit had no such lineage. It came from another world entirely. If he let that secret slip, he'd invite nothing but suspicion and complications he could do without. So he kept silent and waited for the perfect moment to claim his destiny. All right, if you have any questions, let me know immediately, Dean Mano said with a frown. When a soul master absorbs a soul ring, you must maintain perfect control of your own state. One wrong move during the absorption, and your life could be forfeit. Thank you for the warning, Dean, Cheng Xiao replied with a polite smile and a nod. Satisfied that Cheng Xiao understood, Mano fell silent. His advice given, the rest was up to Cheng Xiao. They pressed on through the dim passages. After a time, Luo Sanpao, who had been scouting ahead, suddenly froze, his huge eyes fixed on something in the gloom, his lips trembling. Master, what's wrong with Sanpao? He called out. Tang San turned toward the master, puzzled by Luo Sanpao's alarm, but the master remained perfectly composed, a gentle smile on his face, as though he had expected this moment. He raised a hand and pointed to a nearby plant, its leaves so dark they almost vanished into the shadows. We're in luck, the master said quietly. We found it the moment we stepped in. Master Xuan's voice cut through the stillness of the chamber. 100-year-old soul beast, Shadow Vine. Tangsan turned, his gaze alighting on Cheng Xiao. Shadow Vine? That's a plant-type soul beast. Wouldn't it suit you perfectly? You mentioned that, while most plant beasts lack offensive power, this one is uniquely sharp. Master Xuan nodded thoughtfully. Precisely. Among its kind, the Shadow Vine is exceptional. Cheng Xiao, your martial spirit is the top-tier beast spirit shadow soldier, isn't it? Why not claim this vine as your first soul ring? I'm certain that, once absorbed, it will awaken a cutting technique within you. Mano, standing beside Master Xuan, gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's not be hasty, Master. Cheng Xiao's spirit is a brand-new top-grade beast spirit. Though it carries the name Shadow, the soldier aspect sets it apart. We don't yet know how it will interact with a plant-type ring. Cheng Xiao met her companion's eyes, the torchlight flickering across her determined features. The prospect of a new soul ring was tempting and fraught with unknowns. Carefully, she weighed their words before responding, ready to make her choice. I think we should search again, see if we can find a different type of soul beast, Mano suggested. What do you think? The master shook his head firmly. No, even though Cheng Xiao's martial spirit ranks among the very best beast spirits, the shadow vine we encountered can grant him a sharpness soul skill. No matter how unique his spirit might be, it can't escape the lineage of beast-type spirits. With the shadow vine's sharpness, his offensive power will improve dramatically. As a leading theorist in soul martial arts, the master's judgment was rarely questioned. He had never laid eyes on Cheng Xiao's martial spirit, yet he knew that any beast-type spirit could acquire sharpness upon forming its first soul ring. Mano flushed at being contradicted but ceded the floor. Cheng Xiao, what do you think? You're the one hunting your own soul ring, after all. Ask me? The master's tone was mild but unyielding. My vision has never been wrong. Cheng Xiao took a moment to weigh their arguments. Finally, he shook his head. Thank you, Master, but I have to agree with the Dean. Let's keep looking. Though the master's reasoning was sound on paper, Cheng Xiao felt it might not suit his particular spirit, and so, despite the master's certainty, they prepared to continue their search for a soul beast that might offer something more fitting. Master. Cheng Xiao began, then faltered, unable to complete his sentence. The master's eyes narrowed. You refuse my guidance? He asked, his voice cold as steel. Very well. Learn on your own, then. With that, he turned away and ended the discussion. It was unthinkable that a mere 6- or 7-year-old would spurn the offer of instruction from a martial soul theory master. He had intended to accept Cheng Xiao as his disciple, only to be rebuffed again and again. Even the ever-calm clay figurine would bristle at such defiance. Standing at a distance, Tangsan sighed inwardly. Cheng Xiao was making a grave mistake. Their teacher had devoted decades to perfecting martial soul theory. He knew exactly how to choose the proper spirit ring. There was no way he could be wrong. But Cheng Xiao wasn't convinced. He couldn't read minds, nor did he wish to absorb the Shadow Vine ring. The mere fact that its name included shadow didn't make it right for him. He hesitated, uncertain how to proceed, when suddenly Luo Sanpao's urgent cry cut through the tense silence once more. The forest around them fell unnervingly quiet, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves. Instantly alert, Master Liang, his senses honed by his martial soul, turned toward a darker patch of undergrowth. Movement over there, he announced, his voice low and steady. Everyone, stay sharp. Dean Mano frowned and hurried to his teacher's side. What is it? A pack of soul beasts is approaching, Master Liang replied, masking a flicker of concern with practiced calm. And they're not weak. At his teacher's warning, Mano drew a slow breath and unleashed his martial soul, the rock shield. 4 glowing rings of power materialized at his feet, white, yellow, then purple, each ring a testament to a soul master over level 40. As the energy surged, a massive shield of jagged stone coalesced before him, emanating an impregnable aura. Mano's soul weapon was perfectly suited to defense, an ear, that attribute shield that could withstand the fiercest blows. Yet beneath his outward confidence lay a hard truth. His innate soul power had always lagged behind those of his peers. Growing up in poverty, he'd never enjoyed the patronage or resources that might have accelerated his cultivation. At 40 years of age, he'd only just broken into the soul master realm, a slow ascent by any measure. Still, in remote Notting City, such an achievement marked him as something of a prodigy. Now, as low growls echoed through the trees and the forest floor vibrated with approaching paws, Mano steadied himself behind his shield. Whatever was coming for them, he vowed he would stand firm and protect his master at all costs. Cheng Xiao and Tang San both realized in an instant what was coming. A pack of more than a dozen nether wolves was advancing on them, teeth bared and eyes glowing with feral hunger. But they were not alone. Looming behind the wolves was an enormous figure, its form wreathed in undulating black mist. At the sight of that shadowy giant, all four of them froze, hearts pounding as they held their breath. The air around them seemed to thicken with menace, and even the relentless snarling of the nether wolves fell away into an almost reverent hush. In that tense moment, they knew they were facing something far more dangerous than a simple wolf pack, and that whatever emerged from the black mist would decide their fate. Chapter 10. I'd rather be Xiaoyan's younger brother than Tang San's brother. Amid the swirling black mist, a hulking shape began to take form. A colossal wolf, far larger than any nether wolf I had ever heard of, emerged, its maw stretched in a feral grin, fangs gleaming in the dim light. It can't be a nether wolf. Master Mano's voice shook with barely concealed terror. The beast's obsidian fur mirrored the inky fog surrounding it, making its exact contours nearly impossible to discern. Easily 4 meters from snout to tail, this monstrous wolf held regal menace in every dark green stare. Its tail lay heavy behind it, the mist clinging to its bristling pelt like living shadows. This was no ordinary nether wolf. It was a mutant, an apex predator among predators, possessing not only unmatched speed and strength, but an alien charisma that bent lesser wolves to its will. By birthright, it was the king of its pack, and at that moment it unleashed its legendary skill, the demon wolf's roar. "Xiao Gang," Master Mano rasped, urgency sharpening his tone. Though this beast's soul has existed for less than 1,000 years, its raw power surpasses that of a millennium-old spirit beast. You, take the children and run. I'll hold it off. 4 crystalline soul rings on Master Mano's arm flared to life, each glowing with fierce energy. He hefted his rock shield, his martial soul manifesting as an implacable barrier, and charged headlong into the throng of nether wolves, the ground trembling under their savage advance. Master's eyes suddenly gleamed. Without a moment's hesitation, he grabbed Tang San and Cheng Xiao by the hands and bolted back along the path they'd come. "Xiao San," he panted as they ran, "here's a fundamental truth. The more spirit rings you have, the older your bones, the more techniques you master, and the greater your power. Fewer rings mean weaker bones, fewer skills, and less strength. When you're outmatched, you run, and that rule holds even when you've become a titled Douluo." Tang San nodded solemnly. "Yes, teacher, I understand." Dragged along in mid-flight, Cheng Xiao glared at him in bewilderment. "Wasn't it obvious to flee when you were losing? Did this really require an explanation?" Behind them thundered the master's martial soul, the water buffalo Luo Sampao. Its massive form raced with them, its wide eyes brimming with terror. Nothing mattered more to it than preserving its life. Meanwhile, across the clearing, Manuo struggled against the encircling wolf pack. Though he was a 4-ring soul master, his spirit ring configuration left him at a serious disadvantage. Manuo was no offensive powerhouse. He'd trained as a defensive soul master, yet he'd pressed himself into the fray against the nether wolf pack's relentless soul-draining onslaught. Each bite, each spectral swipe, leached away his spirit power. In a final, brutal blow, one of the wolves sent him hurtling into the gnarled roots of a towering tree. Pain exploded through his ribs, and he coughed up a mouthful of vivid red blood. He lay there, dazed, staring up as the massive, shadowy alpha wolf padded forward, jaws glistening with ectoplasm. Manuo braced for the killing strike. Then a sharp crack tore through the forest air. The lead wolf let out a pained howl and collapsed. Without so much as a glance at Manuo, the fallen wolf's alpha roared in alarm and turned away, fleeing toward the direction where Manuo's master and their companions had hurried off. The remaining 1 or 2 nether wolves exchanged uneasy looks. Their leader had retreated. Their own cultivation, barely a century old, meant they weren't about to risk facing a soul master on their own. In moments, they slunk back into the shadows, leaving Manuo alone beneath the tree's spreading canopy. I actually survived? Manuel whispered, heart-pounding. Stunned by his own luck, he forced himself to sit up, disbelief and relief warring in his chest. He had braced himself for death. Never had he imagined the nether wolf would spare him and turn its attention to his master and companions instead. Though he offered little resistance, at his master's astonishing speed, they should already have put considerable distance between themselves, shouldn't they? Deep in the soul-hunting forest, 3 figures wove through the shadowed trees at blistering pace, a massive wolf wreathed in black mist and 2 smaller human forms. At the first sight of people, nearby soul beasts tensed to attack, but the moment that ominous wolf appeared, they froze in place, too terrified to move. "Teacher, the nether wolf's gaining on us," Tang San shouted as he sprinted, glancing over his shoulder at the dark blur closing in. "Luo San Pao, hold your position." At the master's command, 2 shimmering soul rings materialized at his feet, rooting him to the spot. Behind them, Luo San Pao, his loyal martial spirit, came to an immediate halt. The little wolf's body swelled, muscles coiling as if to unleash a devastating assault. Yet the nether wolf never flinched or slowed. Its fierce gaze remained locked on the fleeing trio, entirely indifferent to Luo Sanpao's challenge. A single swipe of razor-sharp claws sent the bloated form of Luo Sanpao hurtling into the nearby thicket like a punctured balloon. The creature crashed into the underbrush, its fate uncertain. Because master and martial soul were one, as soon as Luo Sanpao was wounded, the pain seared through the master's abdomen, his legs buckling beneath him. Even so, another wolf was still in pursuit, and he forced himself to keep running. Halting now would mean certain death. "Teacher, are you all right?" Tang San called anxiously, noticing the master's staggering steps. "I'm fine, Xiao San. Just run," the master growled through gritted teeth, though every word sent fresh jolts of agony through his limbs. "Once we're out of the soul-hunting forest, we'll be safe." As Tang San sprinted alongside him, his eyes flicked to Cheng Xiao, who trailed just behind. A cold calculation passed through his mind. We're all in danger, and if one of us has to be left behind, it'll be him. "I'm sorry, Cheng Xiao, but if we want any chance of survival, you must become the sacrifice. Once my teacher and I are out of harm's way, I swear I'll help you exact your revenge. By then, you'll finally rest in peace, if you even make it to the afterlife." Resolved, Tang San silently lifted his left hand and loosed a sleeve arrow at Cheng Xiao's thigh. A cold gleam tore through the air, but Cheng Xiao, blessed with the power of shadows, sensed the danger, wrenched free from his master's grasp, came to an abrupt halt, and let the dart whistle past harmlessly. "How?" Tang San muttered, astonished. He hadn't expected that shot to fail. Yet the gambit had succeeded. As long as Cheng Xiao remained occupied, nether wolf clutched in hand, Tang San and his master would have enough time to flee the soul-hunting forest and raise the alarm. "Xiao San, forget him," the master hissed. "Staying here now is suicide." Tang San didn't look back. He seized his master's arm and dashed into the woods. Behind them, Cheng Xiao's eyes burned with icy resolve. No wonder they said everyone preferred being Xiaoyan's brother to Tang San's. Cheng Xiao's body was suffused with shadow energy, sharpening his reflexes and bolstering his strength. Otherwise, that arrow would have embedded in his thigh. He drew in a steadying breath and spun around. At the same moment, the nether wolf halted in its tracks. Before him towered the soul beast, its massive form wreathed in black mist. A chill settled in Cheng Xiao's eyes as he summoned his martial soul. The forest seemed to plunge into shadow, and a dark purple light ignited in the depths of his gaze as the spirit of the Shadow King was released. An overwhelming aura of death radiated from him, so potent that the very air trembled. The nether wolf recoiled, terror surging through its veins. It had only just crossed into the forest when it sensed a nascent force, an energy capable of driving it toward a new evolution. Though the pulse of power was faint, it stirred a deep-seated fear in the beast's soul. Yet mutation and evolution were its nature. It understood that true transformation often demanded sacrifice, like turning a humble bicycle into a roaring motorbike. Trembling but determined, the nether wolf realized that if it could endure this harrowing test, it would emerge far stronger than before. Now, all that remained in its heart was regret. It had never before sensed such a cold presence, the very breath of death. emanating from the Soul Master standing before it. This human felt like a sovereign over mortality, a true king of death. The moment Cheng Xiao released his spirit, torrents of information surged into its mind. Chapter 11. The King's Gift. A series of skill descriptions floated before Cheng Xiao's eyes. Perseverance, passive, activates when your stamina falls below 30%, cutting all incoming damage by half. Recovery, passive. After intense exertion, you automatically enter a rest state, instantly eliminating fatigue and restoring your body to peak condition. Sprint, active, boosts your movement speed by 30% for a short duration. Vital Strike, melee attack, exploits an enemy's weak point to deal massive damage. Dagger Throw, ranged attack, hurls a dagger at your foe. Both accuracy and damage increase with each skill level. What? Cheng Xiao pressed a hand to his forehead, reeling from the sudden influx of data. For a moment his thoughts scattered, until clarity returned like dawn breaking through night. He realized the truth. As he synergies more deeply with the power of shadow, his personal level would rise. Just as Cheng Xiaoyu's system continuously upgrades and unlocks new abilities, so too would Cheng Xiao gain fresh skills each time he leveled up. The King's Gift had granted him not only raw power, but a growth system that would steadily expand his arsenal. A thrill ran through him. With these newfound abilities, his path forward, once shrouded in uncertainty, suddenly looked far more promising. Cheng Xiao's mind brushed against the hidden teachings the Shadow King had left behind. Almost simultaneously, dark purple energy coalesced around his arm, shaping itself into a soul ring etched with twisting, otherworldly runes. This was no ordinary Douluo soul ring. It was born directly of the shadow power coursing through his veins, a living testament to his bond with the Shadow King. Unlike conventional soul rings, which reflect the years of a defeated spirit beast, shadow-forged rings measure themselves against the bearer's own endurance threshold. In other words, as Cheng Xiao grew stronger, his shadow rings would grow with him, true growth-type soul rings. And this first ring wasn't a mere 100-year ring. Its power matched that of a 1,000-year spirit beast. He hadn't needed any rare elixirs or secret artifacts to bolster his physique. After all, a body nourished by pure shadow power could never be as fragile as an ordinary soul master's. As the ring solidified on his arm, ripples of abyssal energy radiated outward, so intense that they stirred something primal in the nether demon wolf. With a low, trembling growl, the wolf cowered back. Deep in its soul, a sudden, unnameable fear blossomed, as if it were glimpsing the true might of the Shadow King, reborn in Cheng Xiao. A primal terror seized the nether demon wolf, quelling its bloodline and sapping its life force. Normally, a level 1 soul master was no more than a nuisance, just a flick of the wrist away from death. But Cheng Xiao exuded a presence far deadlier than any ordinary cultivator. "Ouch!" the wolf yelped, surprise and fear ripping through its howl. Knowing that hesitation would mean instant annihilation, it threw back its head and released a bone-chilling cry, as if to steel itself for the fight. Then it fixed its wicked yellow eyes on Cheng Xiao, bared its blood-stained fangs, and sprang forward with all the ferocity of a demonic beast. Cheng Xiao remained perfectly still. With barely a movement, he raised an arm, spread his fingers, and unleashed a jet of dark purple light. The beam struck the wolf squarely in the forehead, incinerating its flesh and leaving a neat, thumb-sized hole. In an instant, the nether demon wolf collapsed at Cheng Xiao's feet, its eyes wide with horror. It had never dreamed that a mere level 1 soul master could kill it so swiftly, so effortlessly. Chapter 14. The Shadow King's Last Gift. The nether demon wolf snarled, fully convinced its opponent was the weakened Cheng Xiao. What it failed to see was that the boy standing before it was no longer himself, but the Shadow King inhabiting his body, using the very last of his power. With a thunderous boom, tendrils of pure darkness unfurled from Cheng Xiao, surging across the clearing like a living shadow. The wolf's triumphant howl turned to a strangled scream as the darkness engulfed it, shredding its defenses in an instant. Cheng Xiao's body went limp. He collapsed to the ground, chest heaving, as the fierce violet glow in his eyes flickered and died. The world dimmed into silence, until a cold, emotionless voice echoed inside his mind. "The system administrator has perished. You no longer possess system player privileges. Redefine your identity. Successor to 3 generations of kings, the royal endowments have been bestowed. Good luck. A brief chime sounded in his head, followed by a final notification. New title unlocked, Wolfslayer. When the opponent uses a beast-type soul beast, all your attributes increase by 40%. Unknown skill max passive, effect undisclosed. The arrival of the otherworldly king, activated. Temporary recovery state instantly restores peak condition used. The moment those words appeared, Cheng Xiao felt his depleted soul power surge back at an almost terrifying speed. A warm, indescribable comfort flooded through him, like drifting on clouds, ascending to a pinnacle of bliss. He could neither measure time nor articulate the sensation. All he knew was that it was overwhelmingly pleasant. When he finally opened his eyes, night had fallen. Cheng Xiao rolled to his feet, surprised to discover that concentrating the energy of his soul rings had triggered more than just a recovery. He felt different. He stretched, and his limbs seemed longer, more powerful. His normally delicate features had sharpened into something undeniably handsome. He glanced down at his arms. Even in the dim light, he could see the subtle transformation of his skin, taut, smooth, as though it had been polished. A chill thrill ran through him. He flexed his fingers and felt strength coursing through his veins. Whatever had occurred during that euphoric interlude, it had left him not only restored, but reborn. Cheng Xiao frowned and whispered to himself, "So the novice gift package the Shadow King left me has run its course." He flexed his fingers and summoned his martial spirit once more. This time, the strange tingling sensation from before did not return. Instead, a swirl of dark purple-black smoke coalesced in his palm. From its depths came faint snarls of the undead and soft, conspiratorial whispers. Satisfied, Cheng Xiao dispelled his spirit and dropped into a cross-legged stance. His mind buzzed with the torrent of new knowledge, techniques for sprinting at impossible speed, pinpoint strikes to vital points, throwing daggers with lethal precision. All of it felt instinctively familiar, yet utterly untested. He closed his eyes and concentrated, determined to digest it all before moving on. Directly in front of him, a thin ribbon of black smoke drifted up from the corpse of the nether wolf the Shadow King had slain. The wisp curled and thickened into a shadowy form, then slithered toward Cheng Xiao's own shadow, merging seamlessly with it. As the two shadows fused, pale yellow sigils bloomed across the wolf's fur, each circle pulsing with a dim, eldritch light. Cheng Xiao opened his eyes. The runes glowed steadily now, an unmistakable sign that his new abilities were settling into place. He inhaled deeply, rising to his feet, ready for whatever challenge came next. Though it bore the title of a 100-year soul ring, this yellow-hued ring came from a nether wolf, and its energy aura was surprisingly thin. Judging by the reaction of Tang San's spirit, its potency was barely on par with a 10-year-old soul beast's ring. Night had fully fallen by the time Tang San and his apprentice emerged from the trees. In their frantic bid for freedom, they'd left Cheng Xiao behind, hoping to break out of the soul-hunting forest and raise the alarm. But luck was not on their side. Tang San, running all the while in agony, had exhausted his strength far faster than he'd expected. Their plan to reach the forest's edge and call for reinforcements had to be put on hold. Seeing, or rather hearing, no sign of the nether wolf in pursuit, Tang San guided his apprentice to the shelter of a massive gnarled tree. There they struck flint, coaxing a small bonfire into life. Pale yellow flames hungrily consumed the dry wood, crackling softly in the still night air. The two sat huddled close to its warmth, faces drawn and ashen. Their escape, however successful, had left them utterly spent, and painfully aware that true safety still lay far beyond the forest's dark embrace. Chapter 12. Tang San's Unusual Martial Soul. Xiao San, go grab a few white radishes from that moonlit night at 24 Bridges bag I gave you, and feed them to San Pao. Master's voice sounded a bit weary. All right, teacher. Tang San nodded and reached for the storage pouch at his side, the exquisite moonlit night at 24 Bridges bag. He withdrew several plump white radishes and tossed them to the little creature curled at Master's feet. Duo. At the sight of the radishes, Luo San Pao, whom Tang San had nicknamed Duo, bolted upright. With eager chops, it seized the vegetables and devoured them in a few crunches. Watching the scene, Tang San's cheeks warmed. No wonder Master had sent him all the way to buy radishes earlier that morning. Those vegetables weren't for the two of them, but for Duoduo's sake. Still, he couldn't help his curiosity. Teacher, every time San Pao uses, his soul skill, does he have to eat white radishes first? Master's expression stiffened for a moment. He forced a rueful smile and explained, San Pao's main attack manifests as, well, let's call it an explosive gust. White radish happens to be very effective at catalyzing the reaction. Tang San blinked, not quite sure where to look. A soul skill powered by, of all things, flatulence, and radishes to amplify it. It was certainly the most peculiar martial soul he'd ever encountered. Yet he reminded himself, in the world of soul masters, anything was possible. Even explosive white radish farts could become a formidable weapon. After San Pao nibbles on a few white radishes, his energy rebounds almost instantly, and with it, the number of times he can call upon his soul skills recovers at a far quicker pace. How's that? Tang San asked with a teasing lilt, but the instant he saw the master's crestfallen face, he bit back his grin. Here was a renowned authority on martial soul theory, endlessly lecturing others, yet reduced to deploying nothing more than flatulence as his signature move. In the Soul Master world, it was the very definition of mortifying. An explosive tactic, all right, but hardly befitting his reputation. And yet, the real embarrassment lay deeper. If the master had possessed even moderate innate soul power, his martial soul wouldn't have twisted into that grotesque mutation. After decades poring over martial soul theory, he'd mastered the lore of soul beasts. But what else? He'd never confronted the one truth that mattered. It was his own lack of talent that had doomed him. Shouldn't he have spent those years hunting solutions instead? Lola! The cry from Luo Sanpao cut through the air, and the world suddenly grew hushed. A faint rustling drifted to Tang San's ears, and with it an odd, fishy-sweet scent that made his skin prickle with anticipation. The instant Tang San caught that sudden acrid tang in the air, he flared up. Teacher, watch out! It's poisonous! He slammed open the flow of his Xuantian gong and pushed his purple spirit eye to its peak. Through the underbrush, a dark green serpent lifted its triangular head, ruby eyes glittering hungrily at them. Snake! Tang San shouted. He yanked a fire starter from his 24 Bridges moonlight box and flung it straight at the creeping head. The wick caught instantly, crimson sparks exploding to banish the darkness. His master ground out a curse. A mandragora snake! Damn it! Old man Manuo isn't here to handle this. We've drawn the short straw today. Tang San's heart thundered. Then what do we do? Xiao San, the master ordered, voice low but urgent, do exactly as I taught you. Now! At that very moment, elsewhere, Cheng Xiao, his thoughts finally steeled, came up to the rim of the soul-hunting forest. Before he could take another step, he stumbled on a figure slumped against a tree, Dean Manuo, badly wounded and bleeding. Every second from here on would count. Manuo let out a breath when he saw Cheng Xiao was unharmed. Where are Tang San and his apprentice? He asked. After all, the three of them had slipped away together. Yet only Cheng Xiao had returned. As head of the institute, he needed an explanation. Cheng Xiao's mind instinctively replayed the moment Tang San had insisted on staying behind to distract the soul beast so that teacher and student could escape. If he hadn't known the territory, he'd surely have been torn apart without ever understanding what attacked him. Taking a steadying breath, Cheng Xiao decided to keep that part of the story to himself. Even if he confessed the truth, who would believe it? Forget the bond between master and disciple. Tang San's actions alone sounded impossible. What 6-year-old would willingly flirt with death like that? Here on the Douluo Continent, children awaken their martial spirits at the age of 6. A newly awakened child behaving with such reckless bravery? It defied all logic. Except, of course, when it came to Tang San. Who would ever buy it? Under the dense canopy of the soul-hunting forest, Cheng Xiao's ruse had thoroughly convinced Dean Manuo that the three of them were now scattered. Manuo, who'd stayed behind to guard their rear, knew all too well the ferocity of a nether demon wolf. Satisfied that the others were alone, he was gearing up to slip out of the forest and summon reinforcements. But just as he pushed aside a tangle of vines, a sharp cry rang out from deeper in the thicket. Xiao San, hurry! Manuo froze, his pulse quickening. He peered into the gloom, then bolted forward. Master and Tang San, he called, vaulting over a fallen log. Cheng Xiao gave a helpless shrug and followed. Together they parted the underbrush, and there they saw their teacher and Tang San, backed against a mossy boulder. Opposite them, coiled and motionless, was a massive mandragora snake. Its forked tongue flicked in and out, tasting the air. "It's a 100-year-old mandragora snake." Manuo gasped. He swallowed hard. First, a mutant nether demon wolf nearly tore us to pieces. Now this. When will our luck ever change? With his words hanging in the still forest, the serpent drew back its head, preparing to strike, and in that instant, all four souls braced themselves for the fight of their lives. They really should have checked the almanac before venturing out. What rotten luck. "Tang San! Master! This way! Hurry!" Mano's frantic shout cut through the forest. Startled, Tang San and his teacher abandoned their standoff with the mandragora snake and turned to see Mano waving them toward safety. But the snake refused to let such easy prey slip away. In an instant it recoiled, then lunged straight at Tang San, ignoring the 2-ring spirit master and 0-ring boy alike. Tang San's eyes flashed ice cold. Channeling Xuantian Gong into his legs, he felt his muscles coil like springs beneath his skin. With a mighty leap, he vaulted into the air, twisting on the wind. From the sleeve of his left arm, he unleashed a streak of jet-black energy, the Tang sect's silent sleeve arrow. The mandragora snake tried to twist out of the way, but the shot was too swift. The arrow found its mark, driving into the creature's left eye and halting its attack in an agonized screech. Feet landing softly on the forest floor, Tang San stood ready for whatever came next. The mandragora serpent's forked tongue flickered frantically, as though tasting the very pain burning in its eyes. Unfazed, Tang San loosed several more concealed arrows, each one streaking toward the creature's vital points. The wounded serpent twisted away, narrowly evading the volley, and coiled, ready to strike. But Tang San was already closing the distance. In his hand glowed a dagger pulsing with condensed Xuantian energy. A pale blue light shimmered in his palm, and, shrouded in the murky veil of his ghost shade technique, he advanced with silent speed. The mandragora reared back and opened its gaping maw, fangs dripping venom in a lethal invitation. Seizing the moment, Tang San lunged forward and drove the dagger straight down its throat. The blade sank deep, and the beast convulsed in a violent spasm. With a deafening hiss, the serpent lashed its heavy tail in Tang San's direction, but he was already sliding aside, his feet tracing impossible patterns on the ground. The tail whistled past him, missing by inches as Tang San readied himself for the next strike. Master's urgent shout echoed through the forest. "Xiao San, fall back! It's too dangerous!" Tang San thrust his sword at the mandragora snake with every ounce of strength, but when its barbed tail whipped back, he vanished in a swirl of ghost shadow and reappeared several feet away. At Master's warning, he feigned a misstep and collapsed to the ground. Heart-pounding, he reminded himself that no one in this world could penetrate the depths of his soul realm. Even if Master and Dean Manuo had watched his every move, they could never guess the forbidden Tang sect techniques he had just used. He hadn't meant to unleash those hidden skills, until he saw Dean Manuo, wounded and desperate, ordering the two of them to flee rather than coming to their aid. Clearly, the Dean was gravely injured. Otherwise, he would never risk abandoning his companions. The realization crystallized Tang San's resolve. These two witnesses must be silenced. With the lethal speed of his silent sleeve dart, dispatching 2 weakened men would be frighteningly easy. Chapter 13. Let us believe in Tang San. Tang San's mind spun with the deadly resolve to dispatch the two who confronted him. Yet, before he could act, his master sprang forward without a moment's hesitation. With a gentle but firm grip, she hauled him to his feet, concern etched across her face. "Xiao San, are you all right?" she asked, voice low and urgent. For an instant, Tang San's hand twitched in his sleeve, poised to strike. If he killed her now, no one would suspect the truth. His soul's origin lay outside this world. But as he searched her eyes, he saw only genuine worry. Slowly, he relaxed his grip and lowered his arm. "Master, Tang San began, but before he could answer, Mano's voice shattered the tense silence. "Xiao San, what were you doing just now?" He and Cheng Xiao hurried over, their faces flushed with alarm. "You know how dangerous it is out here at night. You nearly disappeared on us." Master's sharp glance flicked between them. "Why did you stop, Tang San?" Do you realize how perilous that was? Tang San exhaled, relief warming his chest. If his master had sensed anything supernatural, if she'd shared even a fraction of his purple demon eye's vision, she might have pressed him harder, uncovered the secret he guarded with his life. Instead, her concern remained purely that of a mentor for her student. And in that moment, Tang San decided he would spare her trust. For now, at least, he would let her believe in him. "I'm sorry, master," Tang San gasped, clutching his side. "I panicked and just swung the dagger you gave me at random, and I ended up stabbing that mandragora snake. I didn't mean to." Master Manuo turned to the wounded serpent. Its breaths came in shallow, ragged gasps. A trace of alarm flickered in his eyes, then melted into pure excitement. "Splendid, Xiao-san. You've slain the snake and earned its spirit ring." "A spirit ring?" Tang San stared in disbelief. "You really want me to absorb its ring?" Master Manuo nodded, voice solemn. "Indeed, a mandragora snake's ring grants the entanglement spirit skill, though you'll also inherit part of its toxin. It's a crucial milestone in your spirit cultivation, so trust your teacher." He paused, already imagining the next steps. "Once you've absorbed the ring, we'll go assist Cheng Xiao on a spirit beast hunt." Tang San's brow shot up. "Cheng Xiao?" From behind Master Manuo, a young man stepped forward with a friendly grin. "Tang San," Cheng Xiao said, "just follow Master Manuo's instructions. I'll see you out there." With his heart pounding in both excitement and nerves, Tang San squared his shoulders. This was only the beginning of his journey and his very first spirit ring. His theory has never been wrong. "Yes, Xiao-san, hurry and absorb the spirit ring of this mandragora snake," Master urged. Though Tang San trusted his teacher implicitly, he detected an edge of impatience in the command, as if Master expected Cheng Xiao, not him, to step forward. Better safe than sorry, Tang San hesitated and asked, "Teacher, my martial soul is plant-based. Wouldn't it be safer to take a ring from a plant-type spirit beast?" Master's features tightened for an instant, but he nodded in acknowledgement. "A good question," he admitted. "Let me explain. In the 10 core theories of martial spirits I've studied, one holds that a plant martial soul can indeed absorb rings from animal spirits, so long as those spirits possess the exact attributes the plant soul requires. Your blue silvergrass needs 2 things above all, toughness and toxicity. This mandragora snake's spirit ring embodies both." Tang San frowned, still wary. "But if I absorb an animal spirit ring, won't its nature clash with my plant soul?" Master met his gaze calmly. "Not if the attributes match precisely. The ring will reinforce your grass's resilience and deliver the venomous edge it needs. Trust in the theory and in your own strength." Steeling himself, Tang San nodded. He had heard Master's lessons many times before. The key to martial soul cultivation lay in understanding and harnessing raw spirit attributes, not merely matching creature types. With that in mind, he stepped forward toward the unconscious mandragora snake, ready to claim its next spirit ring. Master Wan looked at Tang San with unwavering intensity. His voice was low and firm. "Xiao-san, you know as well as I do that every ordinary spirit master, and even the so-called experts in the spirit hall, ridicules my 10-core martial spirit theory. None of them believe it can work." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "But theories exist to be tested. Practice is the only proof, and trying it out is the only way to find the truth. Xiao-san, will you be the first?" Tang San felt a surge of admiration at the conviction blazing in his teacher's eyes. This was the man who, by sheer force of logic, had predicted the possibility of twin martial spirits long before anyone else dared to dream of them, a true pioneer in martial spirit research. Any lingering doubt Tang San had harbored was the result of Cheng Xiao's cynical remarks, not of his own reasoned judgment. He squared his shoulders, bowed respectfully, and met Master Wan's gaze. "Teacher, I accept. I will help you put the martial spirit theory into practice and prove once and for all that it works. I've devoted years to studying martial soul theory. I won't be proven wrong," Tang San said with quiet conviction. "All right," the master replied, relief flooding his features as he met Tang San's gaze. "You are indeed worthy of becoming my disciple." He drew in a breath, pride softening his tone. "This is Yu Xiaogang, my disciple, who places full trust in my teachings. Let the other soul masters, who sneer at my methods, watch and learn. Yu Xiaogang will rise to be the greatest powerhouse on this continent." Tang San closed his eyes for a moment, then inhaled deeply. He lifted his right hand and summoned the last reserves of his soul power into his palm. A pale blue aura blossomed there, and delicate strands of blue-silver grass curled into being, tendrils weaving gently around his fingers. Guided by that ethereal light, the Mandragora's spirit ring detached itself from the defeated sprite and flew straight to Tang San. It shrank and melded onto his aura until it solidified into place. A warm current spread through Tang San's body, soothing and invigorating him all at once. He let the strange, comforting wave wash over him and slowly relaxed into its embrace. Beside him, the master who'd been steadying Tang San moments before collapsed to the ground. In the course of battling the Mandragora snake, his own martial soul, Luo San Pao, had taken a savage bite. But Tang San hardly registered that injury. His vision remained closed, his mind filled with the gentle glow of his newly acquired spirit ring, and with the promise of power it held. Manuo barely registered the shift in the air before the venom struck. The summoned spirit flickered, its aura dimmed, and then everything went black as it collapsed into unconsciousness. Xiaogang! Panic surged through Manuo's chest. He darted forward, caught the crumpled form, and eased him against a sturdy trunk. Kneeling, he pressed 2 fingers to Xiaogang's wrist. Steady, steady now, he reassured himself as much as his fallen master. Xiaogang's face, mottled purple and black, made Manuo's heart pound harder, but at least it wasn't irreversible. It's just snake venom. We can still save him. Dean Manuo, please, detoxify him. Cheng Xiao's voice trembled with urgency. He found he couldn't bear to look at Xiaogang's swollen features, as if each breath might hurl him into nausea. It wasn't malice keeping his gaze averted, merely the horror of seeing a teacher's flesh bruise like that. After all, who would have thought that a respected instructor leading his students on a soul-hunting expedition could end up almost slain by the very beast they pursued? Manuo dipped into his satchel and withdrew a small vial of shimmering antidote. Stay back, he instructed calmly, uncorking it and pouring its contents into Xiaogang's mouth. The liquid deglowed briefly as it slipped down his throat. Moments crawled by, each longer than the last, until Xiaogang's features softened and color began to return. Cheng Xiao exhaled so sharply that dust fell from the tree above. Will he recover fully? Manuo offered a tight smile. Yes, he'll be sore tomorrow, but he'll live. He pressed a hand to the master's forehead, then turned to Cheng Xiao. Help me carry him to camp, and gather fresh water. He'll need to flush out the toxins. Silence fell between them as they lifted the still weak Xiaogang into their arms. The forest around them felt suddenly hollow, the hunt forgotten. All that mattered now was saving the man who had risked everything to teach them the art of soulcraft, only to be betrayed by its deadliest prey. Even though Cheng Xiao had never held any reservations about Master before, he found himself feeling awkward now. All right, Mano said, gently parting Master's robes and beginning a careful inspection. Moments later, he drew back, his face tightening in embarrassment. Cheng Xiao cocked an eyebrow. Mano, what's the matter? Mano waved a hand, trying to sound nonchalant. Nothing, really. Yet his hesitation told another story. After a few more careful probes, he located the poison's epicenter. It's here, he whispered, pointing to the upper thigh. The toxin's strongest at the root. Cheng Xiao frowned. So what do we do now? Mano sighed, glancing away. That area's delicate. At my age, soul power detoxification there is challenging. I could purge the poison by forcing it out with soul force, but one misstep, and I might trigger an adverse reaction. Master could end up immortalized. Silence stretched between them until Cheng Xiao brightened. Let Tang San handle it once he's finished absorbing his soul ring. His finer control over soul power will make the detox much safer. Mano's relief was immediate. Perfect, he agreed. That's exactly what we need. Mano shook his head firmly. No, Tang San is still just a child. I'm not convinced he's ready for this. Cheng Xiao smiled and turned to the dean. Sir, please reconsider. When we battled the mandala snake earlier, Tang San threw himself into the fight. He even panicked at the end, but he still delivered the killing blow. His performance proved he possesses talents far beyond an ordinary boy. The dean glanced between Cheng Xiao and Mano, weighing Cheng Xiao's words against Mano's hesitation. At last, Cheng Xiao continued, we must trust him. After all, he's the master's own disciple. Mano exhaled and fell silent. The dean studied his face, then inclined his head. Very well, Tongsan will join us. Chapter 14, Purging the Poison. Mano's eyes widened at Cheng Xiao's suggestion. The reasoning, strange as it sounded, was undeniably sound. Tongsan's sudden victory over the Mandragora snake had proven he was no ordinary disciple. If anyone could draw the venom from their stricken master, it would be him. After a heartbeat's hesitation, Mano's gaze hardened with resolve. Very well, he said. We'll follow your plan. Send for Tongsan. He will purge the poison himself. A triumphant smile curved Cheng Xiao's lips. He turned and called for Tongsan, who'd been quietly restrained at the edge of the courtyard. Tongsan, Cheng Xiao called, his tone laced with derision. You revere our sect leader as your teacher. Surely you can handle this minor task, drawing out the venom that courses through his veins. Cheng Xiao stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. I once respected you, boy, but your attempted escape has shattered that. You lack the strength to kill you outright, yet you can still serve our master in a most humbling way. With your own mouth, you'll rid him of this shameful toxin. After all, he's your teacher. How could you refuse? Tongsan's heart pounded. Though fury flared within him, he knew resistance was useless. Summoning every ounce of composure, he forced himself forward. Outside, the wind stirred the yellowed leaves of the courtyard's ginkgo trees, their rustling a quiet witness to what would soon come. With his fate sealed by duty and Cheng Xiao's cold command, Tongsan braced himself for the most degrading trial he had ever faced. Several hours later, Tongsan, having absorbed his new spirit ring, slowly opened his eyes. He felt a torrent of spirit power surging through him and couldn't suppress a satisfied smile. Master's theory worked. My blue silver grass has awakened an entangling technique, but the smile vanished the moment he saw his master. The old man was slumped against a tree, his body unnaturally rigid. Dark vapors curled around his face, and his breathing was shallow and erratic. Poisoned! Poisoned! Tongsan blurted out. Xiao-san, you're awake! Dean Manuel rushed forward, relief washing over his features. Quick, your master has been poisoned. Use your soul power to force the toxin out. Tongsan frowned in confusion. Dean Manuel was renowned for his expertise in toxins. Why was he waiting for Tongsan to recover before treating his own teacher? He bit back the question as Manuel gripped his hand and hurriedly explained the situation. In doing so, the dean reluctantly revealed one mortifying detail about how the poison had been administered. Tongsan's face went bone white at the revelation, shock hardening instantly into rage. He stared down at his unconscious master, heart pounding with fury. Whoever had done this would pay dearly. Tongsan couldn't deny how absurd it sounded, to use his own mouth to draw the poison from his master's body. And yet, his master was more than just a teacher. He was Tongsan's second father. If this was how a son could save his father, how could he hesitate? Summoning his resolve, Tongsan tore open the master's robes to expose the festering wound hidden beneath. He held his breath, braced himself, and pressed his lips against the poisoned flesh. A rancid fish-like stench filled his nostrils, but he forced the discomfort aside and clenched his teeth. Deep within, he activated the Xuantian Gong, the highest internal art of the Tang sect, guiding its purifying energy to siphon away the toxin. Ordinary detoxifying methods couldn't reach this level of corruption. Only the Xuantian's potent detoxification could. Had it been any other soul master, one slip, and Tongsan himself might have been overwhelmed by the poison. But for his teacher, his second father, there was no other choice. Cheng Xiao stifled a grin as he surveyed the scene before him. Leaning in close to Dean Manuel, he whispered, "Dean, was my guess right?" Dean Manuel stroked his chin thoughtfully, clearly impressed. "Cheng Xiao, I never expected someone your age to have such keen insight." Across the clearing, Tongsan knelt beside their unconscious master, channeling his spirit energy to draw out the deadly venom. Every so often, he paused to press his lips to master's skin, extracting the poison that threatened to stop his heart. When he was satisfied that the last trace had been removed, Tongsan sank to his knees, utterly spent. Cheng Xiao watched him for a moment, then turned back to the dean. "Let's wait here until master wakes up before we head back," he suggested. Manuel nodded, but hesitated. "What about your soul ring? It's different." Cheng Xiao met the dean's curious gaze without a tremor. To be honest, after we got separated, I came across a 100-year-old soul beast that had been grievously wounded by a nether demon wolf. Rather than burden the others, I absorbed it myself. A broad smile spread across Dean Manuo's face. He clapped Cheng Xiao on the shoulder. You clever boy, what luck! Just then, Tang San exhaled a shaky breath and rolled to his side. Beside him lay a small puddle of violet-stained blood, the poisoned ichor he'd drawn from his beloved teacher. He closed his eyes for a moment, relief washing over him. With the snake venom fully expelled, Master was no longer in danger. Master's face, once a ghastly swirl of black and purple, had finally drained to a deathly pale. Relief flickered across Manuo's features. He turned to Tang San, who was still gasping for breath. Xiao San, rest for a moment, he said, voice taut with relief. We'll get Master back to Notting City right away. You've pulled out the poison, but his cultivation is weak. We'd better consult a spirit-healing expert to be sure there aren't any lingering complications. Understood, Dean, Tang San replied, wiping sweat from his brow as he sank to one knee. Manuo hoisted Master onto his shoulders with a grunt of effort. Cheng Xiao and Tang San fell in beside him, and together they pressed on through the dense undergrowth. By luck, or perhaps fortune, their enemies never reappeared. Manuo's strength, bolstered by adrenaline, held firm, and even the 10-rank soul beasts they crossed paths with shrank from them and fled. At last they burst from the forest's shadow into the small market town on its edge. Here Manuo halted at a row of rickety carriages. After a brief negotiation and the exchange of several silver soul coins, they climbed into a covered carriage. The driver cracked the reins, and the horses trotted off along the winding road toward Notting City. Within the wooden confines, Master lay still, and Tang San settled against the wall, exhaustion finally washing over him. The journey to safety and answers had begun. Dean Manuo's swift connections in Notting City proved invaluable. Within hours of their return, he had arranged for a renowned soul-healing master to tend to Master's grievous wounds. The treatment itself was intensive, but surprisingly brief. By dawn, Master opened his eyes, alert and steady. Tang San, who had scarcely left Master's bedside, broke into a grin the moment Master stirred. Relief and joy washed over him, and he sank to his knees beside the bed, pumping his fist in triumph. "You're back," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. Master offered him a faint smile, and in that instant, everyone in the room felt hope renewed. But Cheng Xiao excused himself soon afterward. He passed through the silent dormitory corridors without a word and made his way to the secluded foothills behind Notting College. The moonlit path wound between ancient oaks, and by the time he reached the clearing he favored, where nobody ever came, his footsteps were muffled by soft grass. There, hovering just above the earth, was Cheng Xiao's first soul ring, dark purple, faintly glimmering, and unlike any ring he or anyone else had ever seen. By tradition, a spirit master's first ring should be yellow, the modest 10-year growth ring every novice earned. Yet there it hung, a 1,000-year purple ring, its slow rotation trembling with latent power. Cheng Xiao stared at the swirling depths of that forbidding hue. Agro, the ring might not match the potency of a millennium ring, but its color and origin spelled recklessness. In his mind replayed every lesson he'd been taught, how an early purple ring would draw needless attention. What if word got out? What if other students, or worse, the authorities, learned his first ring defied all precedent? He clenched his fists, heart pounding. Fatal disasters. That was the only phrase that swam through his thoughts. A purple ring so young could unbalance the delicate hierarchy of soul power. It could bring him enemies, suspicion, perhaps even a summons to the soul hall itself. A chill breeze rustled the leaves overhead. Cheng Xiao closed his eyes, determined to hold his secret close, for now. He would train in solitude until he understood the ring's true nature. Only then could he face the world again. As the purple glow pulsed beneath his feet, Cheng Xiao vowed, no one would ever use his gift against him. He reminded himself that unchecked power, like a fierce wind through a fragile forest, could be its own undoing, so he had no wish to flaunt his abilities prematurely. Right now, he couldn't even summon his shadow soldiers. As Cheng Xiao had warned, he needed to be at least level 30, perhaps closer to 40, to unlock those class-specific skills. He clearly recalled how, during his job transfer quest, his own strength had been impressive, yet the shadows he beckoned were woefully weak by comparison. True, shadow soldiers grow in power alongside their king, but summoned today, they'd barely scrape level 10, mere cannon fodder. Even at level 50, they'd top out around 40, never surpassing the king's own level. In other words, the summoning ability wasn't unavailable, it was simply beyond his reach until he'd grown stronger. Even if he summoned shadow soldiers, they would be nothing more than expendable fodder, constantly draining his soul power for little real gain. Cheng Xiao had no intention of focusing on that right now. Though summoning shadows would prove useful in time, his immediate priority was to conceal the color of his soul ring. As he wrestled with ways to mask its glow, a cold, emotionless female voice suddenly resonated in his mind. By recognizing the formidable will of the third-generation king's heir, you have acquired the passive skill disguise. From this moment on, only you can perceive the true form of your soul ring. Chapter 15. An Unexpected Battle. Cheng Xiao stared in disbelief at the soft glow of his spirit ring. So, it's fixed? He had deliberately withheld his spirit during the fight, hoping to avoid drawing the attention of people with dubious intentions. Yet here he was, looking at a perfectly restored ring, without lifting a finger. It must be the Shadow King's doing. Leaning back against the grass, Cheng Xiao let out a low whistle. It's good to have a backer. He had no doubt the voice in his head was genuine. The Shadow King's power was beyond anything he'd ever encountered. Altering the color of a spirit ring might seem trivial, but for most spirit masters it would be an impossible feat. For the Shadow King, it was child's play. With that problem solved, Cheng Xiao already had his next step in mind. Travel to Notting City's Spirit Hall, undergo the official master appraisal, and collect the government stipend for spirit masters. He had politely turned down Brother Tao's invitation to join the hall full-time, but that didn't mean he disliked the institution. Quite the opposite. He still held the Spirit Hall in high regard, not for its grandeur, but for its people. He remembered how the hall's deacons had journeyed across a dozen villages, awakening the spirits of ordinary townsfolk and giving them hope for a better life. Smiling to himself, Cheng Xiao stood up. With his ring's glow restored and the Spirit Hall's recognition within reach, he felt ready for whatever came next, even if it meant an unexpected battle lay just around the corner. To be perfectly honest, the trouble wasn't with Spirit Hall itself, but with those running it. Boss Xiao, those part-timers have no shame. Let me loose on them. I'll beat them to a pulp. Lu Long snarled. Since you volunteered, you'll open the match. Cheng Xiao, known to his men as Boss Xiao, answered coolly. Our first opponent is Wang Sheng. Make him regret showing up. Lu Long cracked his knuckles. Consider it done. Cheng Xiao turned to Ling Feng next. You're second. Show these amateurs what Notting College's fastest really looks like. But boss, one of the goons piped up, eyes lingering on a petite girl waiting at the edge of the clearing. What about her? That little rabbit over there looks ripe for the picking. Cheng Xiao grinned. Relax. Follow my lead. I'll start the show, and the rest of you can join in as you like. Boss Xiao is the best! Boss Xiao! Boss Xiao! His crew roared, drumming their fists against their chests in eager anticipation. Just as Cheng Xiao strode forward to claim the makeshift arena, an uproar erupted from the grove's entrance. He halted, squinting through the trees, and tensed as more than 20 figures in crisp, nodding Junior Soul Master College uniforms advanced toward them. At their front stood a tall, imposing youth, shoulders squared, and expression unreadable. Xiao Chenyu himself, the feared boss of Notting College. Cheng Xiao's men fell silent. The air crackled with sudden tension. What had begun as a simple scrap against part-timers was turning into something much more serious. Cheng Xiao's the only one here who's just a part-time student, right? Xiao Chenyu's eyes flicked over him with barely concealed hostility. You part-timers really think you can waltz in here and disrespect me? He barked. Lu Long, teach him a lesson. At that, Lu Long, Xiao Chenyu's hulking enforcer, stepped forward without a word. Cheng Xiao raised an eyebrow. He met Xiao Chenyu's glare, then looked at Lu Long and said coolly, You're sick. The words seemed to set Xiao Chenyu off. His face flushed red. You dare call me sick? He snarled. Lu Long, what are you waiting for? Beat him so badly his own parents won't recognize him. Lulong's body was suddenly bathed in a faint yellow glow. Without effort, a 2-meter staff appeared in his massive hands. He lunged ahead, the staff whistling through the air in a crushing overhead strike aimed straight for Cheng Xiao's head. Cheng Xiao didn't dodge. He simply squared his shoulders and braced himself under the looming blow. A split second before the staff could strike him, a dark purple aura flared around Cheng Xiao's body. With lightning reflexes, he thrust out his right hand and seized the end of Lulong's heavy polearm. Lulong staggered, surprise flashing across his face. "You actually dare catch my martial soul weapon with your bare hand?" he sneered. "You've got no common sense. Go back to your mama, you part-time student." As the words left his mouth, inky black-purple mist billowed from Cheng Xiao's palm. Lulong's eyes narrowed in alarm as he tried to wrench his staff free, but then Cheng Xiao's gaze ignited with violet fire. Before Lulong could react, a thunderous crack split the air. Cheng Xiao's fist slammed into Lulong's abdomen with brutal precision. A jagged bolt of pain exploded through Lulong's midsection. His body went limp. He crumpled to his knees, clutching his gut and struggling for breath as nausea washed over him. Standing over his defeated opponent, Cheng Xiao let the soul power fade from his fist. He didn't need to press the attack. A well-placed strike to the abdomen, the body's most vulnerable spot, was enough to utterly disable Lulong. Cheng Xiao scoffed. "Pathetic." Xiao Chenyu's face twisted with disbelief. "You're holding back, aren't you? You think we're nothing but sickly kittens?" He shot Cheng Xiao an angry glare. "Ling Feng, finish him off. Show him what happens when someone dares pretend to be strong." At Xiao Chenyu's command, Ling Feng rocketed into the air. A faint glow pulsed around him as he flipped over, arms outstretched, and dove toward Cheng Xiao like a living missile. But Cheng Xiao didn't even flinch. This kind of crude attack wasn't worth dodging. Ling Feng's pride flared. "You're underestimating me." He surged forward, ready to strike, but the instant his fist neared Cheng Xiao, a sharp gleam lit up Cheng Xiao's eyes. In that single heartbeat, Ling Feng's fatal flaws seemed to leap out at him, frozen in midair by his opponent's unnerving calm. "Hit the vital point," Cheng Xiao murmured under his breath, pivoting sharply to grab Ling Feng's arms. Riding the momentum of his charge, he drove Ling Feng to the ground with brutal precision. Before Ling Feng could scramble up, Cheng Xiao was already behind him, his fingers locking into the nape of Ling Feng's neck. With a fierce twist and another burst of force, he sent Ling Feng flying through the air. The younger man crashed down several meters away with a sickening thud, his vision flickering to black as he slipped into unconsciousness. Cheng Xiao stood over the fallen Ling Feng for a moment, satisfaction curling at the corners of his mouth. Striking vital points with that speed and accuracy had proven far more devastating than he'd ever imagined. Had he chosen to press those weaknesses further, Ling Feng might not have simply lost consciousness. He could have been crippled. On the sidelines, Xiao Chenyu and his remaining bodyguard gaped in stunned silence. They'd come to intimidate a bunch of work-study students, yet here was a fresh arrival who just walked onto campus and already dispatched 2 of their toughest men as if they were rag dolls. It was genuinely terrifying. Even Ling Feng went down. Xiao Chenyu finally whispered, disbelief thick in his voice. "Are these new work-study kids all this dangerous?" His partner swallowed, eyes darting toward Cheng Xiao. "Boss Xiao, maybe we should keep our distance for now. I've always had the feeling that this work-study kid isn't someone you can just push around." "Quit the nonsense. Boss Xiao's a first-grade soul master. Taking down a work-study student? Child's play." The jeers and laughter rippled through the courtyard, and Xiao Chenyu's face grew dark. He leveled a cool stare at Cheng Xiao and clenched his fists. "Still not convinced?" Cheng Xiao cocked an eyebrow, voice steady. "Fine. If we beat you, that means we work-study students win, right?" "Damn right," Xiao Chenyu snorted. "If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'll never forgive myself." "All right, let's do this." Cheng Xiao cracked his neck and stepped forward. Xiao Chenyu's eyes hardened. The anger in his expression smoothed into an almost regal composure as he spoke in a clear, even tone. "Xiao Chenyu, 6th-year student, wielder of the Wuhunlang Soul, an 11th rank, first-grade battle soul master. In the world of soul masters, formally announcing your soul type and rank is the ultimate sign of respect. No sooner had Xiao Chenyu finished than a shimmering blue aura enveloped him, humming with raw power. The courtyard fell silent, all eyes fixed on the two challengers, each ready to prove who was really on top. A flicker of blue light washed over him. His muscles swelled, his eyes gleaming a pale green, and razor-sharp claws crept from his fingertips. At the same moment, a pure white soul ring materialized at his feet. Cheng Xiao's lips curved into a confident grin. "Behold," he announced, voice ringing with pride, "Cheng Xiao, Martial Soul, Shadow Soldier, 13th level, first stage Battle Soul Master. Let me show you what that means." Chapter 16, Meeting Boss Cheng, One Soul Ring, Level 13. The moment Cheng Xiao announced his martial spirit and spirit power, the circle of senior students behind Xiao Chenyu froze. Their eyes went wide, expressions drained of color. "That can't be," one of them whispered. "How old are you?" Xiao Chenyu swallowed hard. A sinking feeling, almost panic, crept into his chest. He and Cheng Xiao were both first-rank soul masters, yet here stood Cheng Xiao, not just 2 spirit power levels above him, but a full 2 tiers higher. And nobody had ever heard of a Shadow Soldier martial soul, let alone one of such uncanny strength. "Oh, I almost forgot to mention," Cheng Xiao said casually, as if delivering the most mundane news in the world. He flashed a half-smile at Xiao Chenyu's bewildered face. "My first soul ring is 100 years old." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a faint, dark purple ring spiraled up from Cheng Xiao's boots. It hovered in midair, rotating slowly around his torso, sending out a dim, ominous glow. In truth, Cheng Xiao had deliberately exaggerated the ring's age to gauge just how convincing its disguise skill could be, and the timing was perfect. As the spectral ring circled him, Xiao Chenyu felt a cold wave slam into him, sapping every ounce of his strength. He staggered, heart pounding, not only at the sheer power of that 100-year-old ring, but at the realization that he might be standing before someone on an entirely different level of cultivation. Silence reigned in the training hall. The senior students stared, mouths agape. And Cheng Xiao, unperturbed, simply waited for his next move, for their questions, for whatever challenge would come. Because now everyone understood, this was Boss Cheng. And nobody rushed Boss Cheng. Xiao Chenyu stood frozen, the stark difference in their soul power laid bare. He was 2 levels below Cheng Xiao, and to make matters worse, Cheng Xiao's first spirit ring was a century-old ring, an advantage so vast it felt insurmountable. After a long moment, Xiao Chenyu shook his head and forced a wry smile. "I give up." His senior companions, who had swaggered in with him, fell silent. If their leader admitted defeat, there was no point in staying. A few of the more calculating students were already edging toward the exit, planning their escape. Cheng Xiao pocketed his spirit ring and regarded him coolly. "Then keep your promise." Xiao Chenyu inhaled deeply and spoke with as much dignity as he could muster. "Fine. From now on, you're in charge, and will never harass the work-study students again." Cheng Xiao offered a faint smile. "That won't be necessary." With that, the long-threatened skirmish ended, by concession rather than conflict, and a new balance, however uneasy, was established among them. Cheng Xiao chuckled, shaking his head. "You're older than me, Xiao Chenyu. It feels strange calling you boss." Xiao Chenyu hurriedly waved his hands. "No offense taken, no offense taken. Boss, I mean Cheng Xiao, I know I'm no match for you. You're definitely the boss here." Cheng Xiao sighed inwardly. He really didn't want that title. It made him feel like a tyrant over a bunch of kids. "Enough with the boss talk," he said lightly. "Anyway, where's Xiao Chenyu? Our work-study students should be here by now." At that moment, another group of students rounded the corner. Xiao Wu, Wang Sheng, and a half-dozen others. Xiao Chenyu blinked in surprise. "Boss, what's going on?" he stammered. "Weren't they only supposed to send one person?" Cheng Xiao gave him a non-committal shrug. He wasn't about to explain. What difference would it make? The match would go ahead either way. Wang Sheng, taking the lead, folded his arms and fixed Xiao Chenyu with a steady gaze. "Xiao Chenyu," he said lowly, "you said you wanted to fight our work-study students. Well, here we are. How do you want to play this?" Xiao Chenyu swallowed. He looked pleadingly at Cheng Xiao, who met his eyes with the faintest hint of a grin. "Up to you." Wang Sheng frowned as he watched Xiao Chenyu bowing before the newcomer. There was something eerily familiar about the man's features, yet subtly different. Then it clicked. The sharp jawline, the keen eyes. "Why does he look so much like Boss Cheng?" Wang Sheng muttered under his breath. At that moment, the stranger turned and met his gaze. A soft glow pulsed around his wrist where a newly acquired soul ring rested. Cheng Xiao had changed since first enrolling, and the ring had only amplified that transformation. He offered a small, knowing smile. "Wang Sheng, it's me, Cheng Xiao." Wang Sheng's eyes went wide. "Holy, Boss Cheng, you're back!" Before Wang Sheng could say more, Xiao Wu rushed over, her expression shifting from surprise to delight. "Cheng Xiao, I thought you were still out on a soul hunt." "I just returned," Cheng Xiao said casually. "I wanted to test my new soul techniques, and I ran into a few opponents along the way." Xiao Wu blinked. "Opponents?" Cheng Xiao gestured to the motionless figure beside him. Xiao Chenyu, frozen stone still as if turned to marble. The courtyard fell silent as everyone registered the scene. Xiao Wu's hand flew to her mouth. "Wait, you mean you faced them all by yourself?" Her voice shook with disbelief. A ripple of astonishment spread through the work-study students. Only the upperclassmen, those already humbled by Cheng Xiao's prowess, remained unfazed. For everyone else, this display of raw power was nothing short of shocking. When did such a fierce person suddenly appear among our work-study students? One student took on the entire senior class, and won. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Xiao Chenyu cleared his throat, stole a glance at Cheng Xiao, then admitted with a wry smile. "Actually, we didn't challenge the whole group. We backed down. We surrendered." Xiao Wu's eyes widened in shock, and she opened her mouth to argue, but Cheng Xiao cut in. "Chenyu, Wang Sheng, you two handle the follow-up. I've got other things to attend to. I'll be going now." "All right, boss," Xiao Chenyu replied with a quick nod. He ignored Xiao Wu's disappointed pout, then turned to face the seniors behind him and announced in a booming voice, "From now on, Cheng Xiao is officially the boss of our new Ding branch. Everyone, come forward and greet Boss Cheng." As the senior students filed past to offer their bows, Cheng Xiao's expression darkened for a moment. He couldn't quite shake the memory of Xu Jiang's scowl. Shaking it off, he strode out of the woods, leaving the work-study students and seniors alike staring after him in admiration. Xiao Wu watched Cheng Xiao's retreating figure with a pout. "Hey, Cheng Xiao!" she called, quickening her pace to catch up. She was dying to know exactly how he'd managed to take down Xiao Chenyu and the others. Sure, Xiao Chenyu had thrown in the towel, but there had to have been some showdown first, right? As the two of them vanished around a corner, Xiao Chenyu slapped a hand to his forehead and muttered, "Great. I thought I only had one boss above me. Now it looks like I have two." Wang Sheng frowned. "Two bosses? What are you talking about?" "Idiot." Xiao Chenyu shot him a withering glare. Civilians really had no clue. Apart from heavyweights like Big Brother Cheng, these part-time students were just ignorant. "What?" Wang Sheng stammered, too stunned to form a proper response. He honestly had no idea what Xiao Chenyu was getting at. Xiao Chenyu leaned in, voice low and warning clear. "Don't think I'll cut you any slack just because Big Brother Cheng is only a part-timer. I'm Cheng's #1 underling. You're way down the chain. Got it?" Wang Sheng only blinked in bewilderment as Xiao Chenyu turned away. He stared at Xiao Chenyu's solemn expression and felt a flicker of surprise. Was this really the fearsome Xiao Chenyu he'd always known? Right now, he almost seemed more like a devoted little brother than a proud senior. Meanwhile, Tang San stepped out of the master's study, his thoughts still spinning from the afternoon's lesson on martial spirit theory. The lecture had driven home just how crucial a solid theoretical foundation was for any spirit user. But there was no time to linger. He still had to report to the Spirit Hall for his Soul Master appraisal and claim his official subsidy. After all, a gold soul coin was not something to be passed up. Chapter 17, Soul Master Appraisal. Tang San emerged from the Master's chambers with one goal in mind: to visit the Spirit Hall in Nodding City and claim his Soul Master stipend. As he made his way down the winding path on the college's back mountain, he nearly collided with Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu, who were walking in the opposite direction. "Cheng Xiao, Xiao Wu, where are you headed?" Tang San called out, noticing Xiao Wu trailing closely behind Cheng Xiao. Cheng Xiao offered him a cool, sideways glance. "We're off to the Spirit Hall to collect our Soul Master subsidies." Xiaowu's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Tangsan, are you going too? He nodded. Yes. Teacher arranged for me to undergo a soul appraisal today. First, they need to measure my current soul power, and then I can pick up the subsidy from the spirit hall. That way I won't have to juggle any part-time jobs on campus. The three of them fell into step together as they set off toward Notting City, each anticipating the appraisal that lay ahead and the rewards it would bring. That's a gold soul coin. Xiao Wu's eyes immediately lit up. One of these can buy so many delicious snacks. Watching her beam, Tang San sighed inwardly. Master had warned him that the so-called Soul Master stipend was nothing more than a public relations ploy by the Spirit Hall to curry favor with the masses. Xiao Wu was far too innocent to see through it, so he owed her a warning. Xiao Wu, he said gently frowning, don't be fooled into thinking the Spirit Hall is a kindly organization. The stipend isn't actually theirs. They're just handing out money on behalf of the two empires. He paused to let that sink in. If anyone deserves our thanks, it's the emperors who funded it, not the Spirit Hall. After all, the Soul Master subsidy comes from the empire, Tang San said. At his words, Cheng Xiao's eyes narrowed. Fine, she snapped. If you're so keen to show your gratitude to both empires, you can go to the imperial office to claim your stipend. I'll head over to the Spirit Hall and collect theirs first. You and Xiao Wu can have your little chat. I'm off. Goodbye. Without waiting for a response, she swept through the gates of Notting College and was gone. Tang San's expression darkened. He'd only been looking out for Xiao Wu, warning her that the Spirit Hall might have its own agenda. He had never expected Cheng Xiao to ditch them like this, especially after suggesting they go for their Soul Master identifications together. Cheng Xiao! Xiao Wu stomped her foot on the cobblestones, glaring after the departing figure. Then she wheeled on Tang San. What was that about? Before he could answer, she sprinted off in pursuit. Xiao Wu, wait, Tang San called after her, but she'd already vanished around the corner. He could only watch helplessly as she went. Notting City's Wuhun Hall loomed ahead, a vast domed edifice that dominated the skyline. Its grand arches and polished stonework testified to the Spirit Hall's influence, and perhaps to the challenge that now awaited them inside. The broad facade of Wuhun Hall in Notting City stretched a full 100 meters across and soared 20 meters high. From a distance, its rich brown stonework and soaring arches gave it the appearance of a grand cathedral. Over the gate, a winged longsword emblem gleamed, a tribute to the legendary angel's sword of the Qian family. Cheng Xiao, wait up! Xiao Wu panted as she hurried to catch her friend. She skidded to a stop at the entrance and glared at him. You walk way too fast. If I didn't have such good stamina, I'd never keep up with you. Cheng Xiao glanced back, amusement flickering in his eyes. You were the one dawdling behind. Don't blame me. You... Xiao Wu stamped her foot and folded her arms in a mock pout. Before she could retort, a bronze-armored guard stepped forward and offered them a gentle smile. Children, this is the Spirit Hall. If you're here to fool around, please find somewhere else. Cheng Xiao quickly withdrew his spirit certificate and presented it respectfully. Good day, sir. I've come for my spirit level examination. The guard accepted the certificate with both hands, studying it carefully. A hint of envy crossed his features. Ah, Master Soul Master status. Very impressive. Please come right in. Master Mashunuo has arrived. Sorry to keep you waiting, Cheng Xiao said with a brief nod, catching Xiao Wu's worried glance as he stepped into the Spirit Hall. Uncle, here's mine too. Xiao Wu's voice trembled as she fumbled for her spirit certificate. The guard on duty nearly dropped his spear. Good heavens, a Spirit Master's certificate. Please come right in, Master. Thank you. Xiao Wu gave a quick bow and hurried past him, closing the heavy doors behind her and Cheng Xiao. Leaning on his halberd, one of the two sentries shook his head in envy. Kids these days, they awaken their powers so young. By now, they're already Spirit Masters. If I'd had their luck, I'd be calling the shots today. His partner chuckled. Who cares? We're guards at the Spirit Hall. The pay's excellent, and life's easy. I'll pass on the Spirit Master. Cheng Xiao halted beneath the hall's soaring arches. Vibrant murals depicting ancient battles, soaring beasts, and guardian spirits climbed the stone walls and arced across the dome overhead. He took a steadying breath. Tomorrow he would stand before Master Mashunuo himself. For now, the hush of the spirit hall, filled with history and power, was enough to remind him why he had come. The spirit hall was virtually empty. Only a handful of maids were tidying the chambers. As Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu stepped inside, one of the maids approached them at once. After hearing their request, she led them down a short corridor to a modest office and knocked on the door. Master Mashunuo, 2 children have come for spirit master identification. Send them in. It's unlocked, replied an elderly voice from within. The maid gently pushed the door open, then slipped away. Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu entered, and Cheng Xiao bowed respectfully. Good afternoon, Master Mashunuo. I'm Cheng Xiao, and this is my classmate Xiao Wu. We've come to have our spirit masters identified. Master Mashunuo peered at them over his spectacles, his brow furrowing in surprise. Spirit master identification? At your age, students usually come only to awaken their martial souls. Are you certain you're not here for that instead? Cheng Xiao met his gaze calmly. No, sir. We've already awakened our martial souls. Today we seek only identification. The old man's expression softened to one of mild astonishment. Under ordinary circumstances, a child your age would possess barely any spirit power, perhaps only a few levels at most. At this age, only a handful of prodigies, those born with full innate soul power or scions of major sects, ever reach spirit level 10 and claim their soul rings. Without a soul ring, one cannot even register as a soul master. Cheng Xiao stepped forward with composed confidence. Sir, I've come to be officially identified as a soul master. I possess full innate soul power. The registrar, a silver-haired elder with keen discerning eyes, raised an eyebrow. Full innate soul power? He repeated, skepticism and surprise warring in his expression. He leaned forward. Young man, was it Master Su Yuntao who awakened your martial soul? Cheng Xiao offered a small, respectful smile. Yes, Master Su Yuntao conducted my awakening. If I'm not mistaken, you were present that day, Master Mashunuo. You even instructed him to record my soul signature. Recognition dawned in the elder's eyes. A gentle smile spread across his lined face. So it's you, he murmured. You must be the genius whispered about. One born with full innate soul power. Welcome, though frankly, I'd be more surprised if you weren't extraordinary. Come on, I'll take you to the Soul Master Assessment Chamber. With that, Master Mashunuo gently took Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu by the hands and led them down the corridor toward the Spirit Hall's assessment room. After a brief walk, they arrived at a spacious, circular chamber. Master Mashunuo produced a smooth, yellow crystal orb and set it on a low pedestal at the center. Children, place your hands on this orb and release your martial spirits, he instructed kindly. Thank you, Grandpa Mashunuo, Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu replied together. They knelt before the pedestal and rested their palms on the crystal's cool surface. Under Master Mashunuo's guidance, Cheng Xiao gathered the soul energy within him and channeled it into his right hand. Almost instantly, Cheng Xiao's irises deepened to a rich violet hue. At his feet, a dark purple soul ring materialized, spinning slowly in midair. Behind him, the spectral form of a fearsome Shadow King coalesced, its presence cloaking the entire chamber in swirling black mist. Master Mashunuo stared in astonishment. Could this be the legendary top-tier beast martial spirit that Su Yuntao said he'd never encountered? He whispered, awe and disbelief mingling in his voice. What a prodigy! Elder Mashunuo murmured, hiding his astonishment behind a composed smile. He narrowed his eyes as he examined the soul ring on Cheng Xiao's finger. 100-year soul ring. Impressive. But the surprises weren't over. Cheng Xiao placed his hand on the yellow crystal orb at his waist and channeled a thread of soul power into it. In an instant, the orb glowed with a clear golden aura, subtle, yet unmistakably bright. Elder Mashunuo's eyes widened. 10th, 13th level soul power. He leaned closer, staring as though Cheng Xiao were some wild anomaly. Good heavens, which soul beast did you defeat to jump 3 levels in a single battle? With a carefree shrug, Cheng Xiao replied, a 400-year-old wolf spirit. Elder Mashunuo chuckled in admiration. So that's it. No wonder Su Yuntao mentioned your lofty ambitions. She wasn't exaggerating. He shook his head, smoothing the folds of his robe. Listen, I won't pressure you to join the Spirit Hall. We don't recruit by force, but once you graduate, if you decide he tapped his chest proudly, our hall is where you belong. You know where to find me, or Su Yuntao. Thank you, Elder Mashunuo, Cheng Xiao said softly, offering a modest smile. Chapter 18. I'll leave my money with you for safekeeping. Xiao Wu and Cheng Xiao stepped out of Wuhun Hall, the sunlight streaming down as they caught their breath. Earlier, during the Soul Master appraisal, Master Matthew Nuo had discovered Xiao Wu's extraordinary gift, her innate full soul power, and immediately invited her to join the Spirit Hall. To protect her secret, Xiao Wu had politely declined, promising that she would consider his offer once she'd graduated. Understanding her caution, Master Nuo simply nodded. As a parting gift, he pressed 2 gold soul coins and a pair of Soul Master badges into their hands. These belong to you now, he said. You're official Soul Masters. From today on, you're free of work-study duties and can devote yourselves entirely to cultivation. Xiao Wu held the smooth golden coin in her palm, her eyes shining. On the walk home, she glanced at Cheng Xiao, grinning. Perfect. From now on, I'll have my own money and won't have to mooch off you for every meal. Cheng Xiao chuckled and tucked Xiao Wu's arm through his. Congratulations, little sister. You've earned it. As they strolled toward the academy gates, both of them felt lighter. No more errands, no more chores, just endless possibilities for growth and adventure. And with that, their journey as Soul Masters truly began. Xiao Wu snorted in mock indignation. Shh, that wasn't sincere at all. She straightened her shoulders and offered with a proud smile. To celebrate our promotion to Soul Masters, how about I treat you to something really good today? Cheng Xiao blinked, surprised. You're inviting me? She hesitated. Are you sure? Xiao Wu feigned offense. What, you think I can't afford it? Not at all, Cheng Xiao replied, shaking her head with a gentle laugh. I just worry that if you splash out all your money now, you'll end up eating air when your purse runs dry. At that, Xiao Wu's smile faltered. She'd never given the slightest thought to running out of funds. She leaned forward and slipped a shining golden soul coin into Cheng Xiao's hand, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I'll leave it with you for safekeeping. Otherwise, I might blow it all, and then I won't even have enough left for food. Cheng Xiao stared down at the coin in her palm, the weight of it suddenly feeling very real. This little rabbit really trusts me, she thought, a warm surprise spreading through her. All right, she murmured, slipping the coin into her pocket. I'll keep it safe. Consider it a temporary deposit. Remember, when I want to spend it, you'll have to pay me back. Xiao Wu watched Cheng Xiao's puzzled look and hurried to clarify. He raised an eyebrow, studying her playful, innocent expression, then laughed. And what if I want to spend it first? After all, your coins are in my hands now. Xiao Wu's eyes widened in mock horror. How dare you? If you touch my money, I'll make you buy me dinner. Cheng Xiao grinned. And what if I don't treat you? Ah, Cheng Xiao, you're so mean. Xiao Wu pouted. If you won't take me out to eat, I'll make sure you don't sleep at night. He weighed the soul gold coins in his palm, then carefully set aside her share. Don't worry, I won't spend your money. By the way, I'm heading to the smithy now. Want to come along? Xiao Wu's eyes lit up. The smithy? Let's go. I've never been there. No sooner had Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu hurried off than Tang San arrived at the Spirit Hall. Tang San pushed open the grand doors of Wuhun Palace with a mixture of skepticism and necessity. Master had warned him that this Soul Master subsidy was nothing more than the palace's way of buying people's loyalty, but Tang San was a realist. Without that subsidy, he wouldn't even have enough to eat, so despite his doubts, he'd come to claim what was rightfully his. Inside the appraisal hall, the air hummed with anticipation. Today, more than ever, the judges seemed to expect a flood of innate soul talents. Tang San waited his turn, the familiar coil of blue-silver grass spirit ring glowing softly around his wrist. When he finally stood before Soul Master Matthew Nuo, the older man rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Are my eyes deceiving me? Another innate soul power? This must be a dream. Matthew Nuo leaned forward, scrutinizing the emerald-green tendrils of the blue-silver grass wrapped around Tang San's fingers. His tone dripped with condescension. A martial spirit as pedestrian as grass? How do you plan to cultivate this? Tang San offered only a calm, unreadable smile. He'd grown accustomed to the dismissive looks and seldom bothered to defend his spirit. Instead, he waited. Matthew Nuo cleared his throat, gathering himself. With a flourish, he pulled out a silver badge embossed with the seal of the Spirit Hall. I'll make you an offer. Join the Spirit Hall, and your talents, grass or no, will be nurtured to their fullest potential. The invitation echoed the same proposal Tang San had rejected twice before. Politely, he shook his head. His reasons remained unchanged. He valued his independence far more than any affiliation, and he trusted no institution enough to hand over his freedom. Matthew Nuo's shoulders slumped in feigned defeat. Very well, he sighed, sliding the Soul Master badge across the table. No strings attached. Congratulations, Soul Master Tang San. With the badge in hand and the promise of the subsidy secured, Tang San dipped his head once in thanks. Today, at least, survival was guaranteed, and the real work had only just begun. Elder Matthew Nuo smiled as he reached across the lacquered table and placed a silver Soulmaster badge before Tang San. Here, this badge will let you claim this month's Soulmaster stipend. At your current rank, you're entitled to one every month. Tang San bowed respectfully and accepted the badge. Thank you, Grandfather Nuo. He hesitated for a moment, then produced a second badge from his inner robe pocket. There's one more thing, Grandfather. My teacher, he's been injured and can't come in person. He asked me to collect his stipend for him. Would you mind? Matthew Nuo raised an eyebrow, curiosity lighting his eyes. Your teacher? A man of his talent still needs the stipend? Very well. Let me see the name on the back of this badge. Tang San handed it over. Elder Nuo turned the badge in his fingers, then his expression abruptly stiffened. On the smooth metal, 3 small characters were etched along the edge. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Matthew Nuo looked up, eyes narrowing in disbelief. These characters, they shouldn't be here. Tang San met his gaze calmly. They're exactly where they ought to be. Matthew Nuo's lips pressed into a thin line as he studied the inscription again. This name, it belongs to someone I thought was lost to time. Outside, the corridor fell silent. The implication of those 3 letters hung heavy in the air, promising that the next move would reshape more than just a monthly allowance. Elder Nuo's eyes narrowed as he read the 3 characters engraved on Tang San's back. Yushogang. Child, have you been deceived? How could you possibly take this man as your master? Tang San frowned. Elder Nuo, what's wrong with learning from him? I've studied his martial theories, and they're extraordinarily powerful, exactly what I needed. If I choose to revere him as my teacher, I see no harm in it. Elder Mashu Nuo offered a polite smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. It seems fortune has favored your teacher, he said lightly. His name does carry weight in the Spirit Master world, but I wonder, can his so-called theories really help me break through Spirit Level 30? He leaned back, folding his arms. In recent years, he's been drawing Spirit Master stipends from our hall. He's no spring chicken. Shouldn't he face reality? If his theories were truly effective, why rely on our subsidies? Mashuno's tone dripped with contempt. In his view, these older masters were all the same, long past their prime, well aware of their own limitations, yet too proud to overcome them. Instead, they peddled lofty doctrines to shore up their reputations, depending on others to support them. On the Douluo Continent, nothing speaks as loudly as one's soul power level. Raw strength is the only currency that truly matters. Those with the harder, heavier fists earn the right to speak. Even if Yu Xiaogang somehow shattered the barrier of the 30th level, something no one had ever managed using his theory, there would be fewer mockeries. But for a great soul master trapped forever below 30, constantly extolling the immense importance and limitless potential of his martial soul theory, yet never able to prove it on the field, how can anyone take him seriously? It's a joke. Mashunuo's words rang in the martial arts hall like a hammer to Tang San's pride. The faint smile he'd worn turned brittle. He had no reply. A disciple of that instructor, he could only force a hollow grin and stand quietly as the laughter died down. Moments later, Tang San slipped out of the hall with his face shadowed by gloom. In his hand, he clenched the Spirit Master's badge. The gold spirit coin lay tucked away in the 24 Bridges moonlit night, his bound spirit beast. He paused in the courtyard, lifted his gaze to the sky, and spoke aloud as though challenging fate itself. Teacher, I, Tang San, swear that I will prove the martial soul theory you've dedicated your life to. I will show the world its power, and mine. With that unspoken promise burning in his chest, he turned and strode into the gathering dusk, determined to make every doubter eat their words. "I'll show those arrogant spirit masters exactly why they should revere you as their teacher," Tang San vowed silently. He was determined to spread his master's martial arts philosophy throughout the cultivation world. But first, he needed to satisfy his own hunger. He hadn't eaten in over a day, and now that he finally had some money, he was headed straight back to the Academy's cafeteria for a proper meal. Chapter 19. The Benefits of Being a Soul Master. Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu arrived at the blacksmith's forge just as the steady ring of hammer on iron reached their ears. Xiao Wu's eyes sparkled as she gazed at the broad hammer sign swinging above the door. Cheng Xiao gave her a small nod, then pushed open the heavy wooden hatch. A blast of scorching air hit them the instant they stepped inside. The furnace's fiery glow lit up a chaotic array of metal tools, unfinished blades, and coils of iron chain. Sparks crackled at the forge's mouth, and shovels of white-hot coals glowed like embers from a dying sun. "Hey, kids, get back!" A burly, shirtless man paused mid-swing, hammer raised, and stormed over. Muscles rippled under tanned skin as he set the hammer aside. "This place isn't a playground. One wrong step, and you'll lose a limb." He narrowed his eyes at them. "You two alone? Where are your parents?" Cheng Xiao held up a hand in apology. "Sir, we came to pick up some tools. We'll be careful, I promise." The blacksmith's stern expression softened slightly. He planted his fists on his hips. "All right, but you're still children. I don't let kids roam around here unattended. You point out what you need, and I'll hand it to you. Understood?" "Understood," Cheng Xiao said. He and Xiao Wu backed away from the furnace's glare, careful not to trip over scattered hammers and tongs. From beneath racks of half-finished swords and shields, they selected exactly what they needed. A sturdy set of iron gauntlets, a reinforced great axe head, and a pair of tempered steel arrows they'd commissioned days earlier. Each time they paused, the blacksmith stepped forward to measure, weigh, or double-check the temper of the metal. At last, with their purchases bundled and their nerves slightly steadied, Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu slipped out of the forge. Poised, as always, to turn these simple tools into something far greater, courtesy of the unseen talent that made Cheng Xiao a true soul master. Cheng Xiao stepped into the forge, where the roar of the furnace drowned out most other sounds. Sparks danced around the high ceiling, and the sharp scent of heated metal filled the air. He cleared his throat and addressed the burly blacksmith at the anvil. "Uncle," he began, "I'd like to commission 2 daggers. Is that possible?" The blacksmith paused mid-swing, glanced at the trembling figure beside Cheng Xiao, Xiao Wu, and then set his hammer down with a friendly grin. "Sure, I can make daggers," he said, "but you'll need an adult from your family to come with the design plans, specify the materials and style, and of course, handle payment." Cheng Xiao's eyebrows drew together. "Do I have to bring an adult? Can't I just do it myself?" The blacksmith shook his head and gave a small, patient smile. "You kids are still young, probably still in school, right? When it comes to forging weapons, it's safer and more proper to have a parent or guardian involved in the process." Cheng Xiao nodded once. "I understand." He reached into his jacket and produced a gleaming gold token and a worn leather-bound handbook. "But look, I'm a soul master now. I received this golden soul coin from the Spirit Hall as a gift for passing the examination. It's official proof of my status." The blacksmith took the coin and weighed it in his rough palm, his eyes widening as he recognized its significance. "A soul master, huh?" He exchanged a look with Xiao Wu, whose nerves suddenly seemed to settle. "Well, that changes things. A soul master has the authority to commission weapons. If you truly have that backing, I can start your daggers right away. Just give me the details, drawings, materials, style, and the payment when I'm finished." Cheng Xiao allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. "Thank you. I'll have everything ready by tomorrow morning." "Good," the blacksmith replied, handing back the soul coin. "Come back then, and we'll get to work." With that, the forging master turned back to his glowing furnace, and Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu slipped out of the forge, anticipation buzzing between them at the prospect of new, custom-forged blades. The burly craftsman eyed Cheng Xiao curiously. "A soul master already?" he murmured, then held out his hand for the official token. Cheng Xiao slipped him a palm-sized metal plate, the soul master's codex, forged exclusively for Spirit Hall officers and offered a bright gold soul coin as payment. The craftsman turned the cold metal piece over in his massive hand, inspecting every groove and seal. Finally, he handed the codex back to Cheng Xiao and pocketed the coin. "All right, kid," he said with a grin. "I'll take care of this for you. Now, do you have a blueprint for the dagger? And what materials are you after?" Cheng Xiao hesitated. "Well, that depends. Different metals and alloys will change the cost. But once you've seen the style I'm aiming for, you can let me know what we'll need. As long as the design is approved, I'd like it made as soon as possible." The craftsman nodded. "Fair enough. Sketch it out for me, and I'll figure the rest." Cheng Xiao bit his lip, running through the image of the dagger in his mind. He knew exactly how it should look and how it needed to balance for a flawless throwing technique, but he had no idea which metals or components would best achieve that. All he could do was draw the shape and trust the master artisan to choose the right materials. The burly craftsman saw Cheng Xiao's awkward hesitation and offered a reassuring smile. "All right, kid," he said. "I won't take the gold soul coin just yet. Come back to me when you have the design sketches and know what materials you'll need. Sound fair?" Cheng Xiao scratched the back of his head. "Actually, do you have any paper and pen here?" The craftsman looked surprised. "You want to draft the design on the spot?" Cheng Xiao nodded. "Yeah, it's too much trouble to go back and forth. I already know exactly what style of dagger I want, and I can list the materials as I draw." "Fine," the craftsman agreed. "I'll send someone out for supplies. Just wait here." He waved to his assistant, who hurried away. A few minutes later, the assistant returned with sheets of parchment and a quill. Cheng Xiao spread out the paper and dipped the pen in ink. His hand moved confidently, tracing the dagger's blade, guard, and hilt with precise strokes. Xiao Wu watched from the corner of the workshop, her large eyes full of curiosity. She'd never have guessed that this quiet work-study student possessed such talent. Even as he sketched, he looked every bit the seasoned artisan. Night had fallen by the time Cheng Xiao added the final flourish to his sketch. Lost in the work, he hadn't noticed how swiftly the hours slipped away. He sat back, exhaling deeply, and brushed the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Finally done," he murmured. Across the table, the grizzled craftsman leaned forward, picking up the drawing of the dagger. His eyes gleamed in the dim lantern light. "This is a beautiful design," he said, tracing the blade's sleek curves with a calloused finger. "But to replicate it perfectly, it'll cost a pretty penny." Cheng Xiao met his gaze calmly. "That's fine. I just want it made exactly like this." The craftsman nodded slowly. "Very well. We'll follow your specifications. I'd suggest using black iron for the blade. It holds an edge well and gives that dark sheen you're after. But working with black iron does take time." Cheng Xiao smiled. "No rush, uncle. Quality weapons are worth waiting for." The old man tapped the sketch thoughtfully. "Let's talk payment. How does 5 gold soul coins apiece sound? You want 2 daggers, right? That'll be 10 coins total." Cheng Xiao didn't hesitate. "Agreed. Thank you." The craftsman folded the drawing carefully and slid it into his satchel. "I'll start forging at first light," he promised. "I'll see you soon. Bring that patience of yours." As Cheng Xiao turned to leave, the lantern's glow flickered across the dagger's etched silhouette, promising a weapon as elegant as its maker's vision. Cheng Xiao took a deep breath. "All right," he said to the smith. "I'll give you 1 gold soul coin now, and I'll pay the other 9 over the next 9 months. Before the blacksmith could respond, Xiao Wu spoke up. "Cheng Xiao, use my gold soul coin," she offered. "I'm a soul master now, so I get a subsidy of 1 gold soul coin each month. If I cover it, we can settle the debt in just 4 months. Besides, I don't eat much, and my daily wages for tending the garden will easily cover the cost." Cheng Xiao stared at her in surprise. Her tone was generous yet modest, and his heart warmed at the gesture. "All right," he replied, smiling. "Consider it a loan from me to you." He handed the blacksmith a second coin, 2 gold soul coins in total. As Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu stepped out of the forge, the blacksmith called after them. "Before you go, because Miss Xiao helped negotiate, I'll knock 1 coin off your total. Instead of 10, you'll only owe me 9. Cheng Xiao paused, puzzled by the unexpected discount, but when he looked back, the smith merely offered a friendly nod and turned away. With 9 coins owed and a 4-month deadline, Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu set off, each pondering what lay ahead. Cheng Xiao chastised himself as he walked through the dimly lit streets of Notting City. Spending an entire gold soul coin to help Xiao Wu wasn't exactly small change, but he had no regrets. He'd already confirmed with the smith that forging the black iron piece, etched with its intricate pattern, would take about a month. After all, their skill level wasn't high, and this was their first attempt at such a complex design. "Thanks, Xiao Wu," he said, hands clasped behind his back as they strolled under the half-hearted glow of lanterns. She snorted. "You helped me so much, and all I get is a thank you?" The alleys here were narrow and dim, lantern light pooling weakly on cracked cobblestones. He couldn't see her face clearly, but he heard the annoyance in her voice. "How else would you like me to show my gratitude? Dinner?" he offered in a conspiratorial whisper. "Delicious dinner?" Xiao Wu's tone brightened, then darkened as she remembered the gold soul coin she'd lost. She pouted. "1 dinner isn't nearly enough." Cheng Xiao grinned. "All right then, 2 dinners." "Only 2 meals?" Xiao Wu froze and raised her eyebrows. "Well, how about 1 month?" Cheng Xiao paused, considering. 1 month isn't impossible. Without warning, Xiao Wu stepped forward in the dim lantern light and pinched Cheng Xiao's cheek. She muttered to herself, "Seriously, he's a boy, but his skin's better than mine." Feeling the nip, Cheng Xiao reflexively reached out and pinched Xiao Wu's cheek in return. In exactly the same tone, he teased, "Seriously, she's a girl, but her skin's worse than mine." "Ah, Cheng Xiao, you're so mean. How dare you copy me?" Xiao Wu cried, swatting his hand away. Chapter 20. Tang San, we need to talk tomorrow. On the 2nd floor of Notting College's cafeteria, a small crowd of students pressed around a window alcove, their voices low but urgent. "Have you heard? The top dog around here isn't Xiao Chenyu anymore," one of them whispered. "It's that new part-timer, Cheng Xiao." "Cheng Xiao, don't call him that," another corrected, eyes widening. "Call him Boss Cheng." "I heard that at noon today, Boss Cheng, standing in for the part-timers, took on all the seniors by himself. Liu Long and Ling Feng, they didn't stand a chance." A third leaned in. "And after he beat Xiao Chenyu, do you know what he said?" "What?" someone breathed. "He refused to claim the boss title. Instead, he called Xiao Chenyu his little brother. I'm telling you, Xiao Chenyu's now going around saying he's Boss Cheng's first junior brother." "Where did you even hear this? It sounds too wild to be true." Tang San, seated alone at the window corner, listened quietly. He'd just returned from his master's side. After all, it was his master who provided his soul master stipend, and every bit of gossip intrigued him. Since coming under his master's tutelage, Tang San had been immersed in the theory of martial souls. He'd gone all day without a proper meal, so when dusk finally fell, that was his first real dinner. Now that he had money in his pocket, he didn't hold back. A hearty spread of meats and vegetables, plus a steaming bowl of soup. Around him, a group of senior students, Cheng Xiao among them, and the ever-talkative Xiao Chenyu, chattered loudly, but Tang San ate with his head down, his mind racing with unanswered questions. He'd sized them up and decided they were still children. Cheng Xiao might be precocious, Xiao Chenyu quick with a joke, but so what? Tang San had more than raw talent. He had his master's direct instruction in martial soul theory, the combat experience and technical mastery of the Tang sect from his previous life, and the formidable training aid of Xuantiangong. No matter how many geniuses crossed his path, they would pale in comparison. He carried a greater purpose, to vindicate his master's teachings before the world and to rebuild the Tang sect's former glory in this new realm. In life, he was a son of the Tang sect. In death, its undying spirit, and nothing would stop him from proving it. Tang San set his empty bowl aside, resolve hardening in his eyes. No matter what world he now found himself in, he would uphold the Tang sect's honor. But first, he needed proper armaments. Tomorrow, he would head to the local blacksmiths, find work, and acquire the materials to forge the sect's hidden weapons. With those in hand, no danger could stop him. When Cheng Xiao and Xiao Wu returned to the dorm that evening, they found Wang Sheng and the others gathered in the common room, all grinning broadly. The moment the door swung open, Wang Sheng hurried forward. "Chengge, Xiao Wu, you're back." Cheng Xiao frowned at Wang Sheng's triumphant expression. "What's going on? Why so happy?" Wang Sheng laughed. After you two left, Xiao Chenyu barged in and declared himself your first junior brother. Now everyone on campus thinks he's your younger brother. Cheng Xiao stared in disbelief. He did what? Are you kidding me? Not at all, Wang Sheng said proudly. He's using your name to boost his own reputation. Wang Sheng wiped sweat from his brow and hurried forward. Boss Cheng, don't worry. Xiao Chenyu's more than pulling his weight as our little brother. He knew we part-timers had been stuck cleaning the playground, so he made sure you're off the hook. He grinned and continued. He even got the senior students to take over all our shifts. From now on, we don't have to work anymore, and we still get paid. We owe everything to Boss Cheng. Thank you, Boss Cheng. The rest of the part-timers in Dormitory 7 echoed the sentiment with enthusiastic cheers. Cheng Xiao waved them off, looking both amused and exasperated. Okay, why does everyone keep calling me Boss Cheng? He turned, Ed to Wang Sheng. Didn't I ask you not to let them call me that? Wang Sheng scratched his head awkwardly. Cheng Xiao, I swear I tried, but they all insist. They're just so eager to show their gratitude. Absolutely, Boss Cheng. We do it by choice, the group chorused, each voice trying to sound more obedient than the last. Cheng Xiao threw up his hands in mock surrender. Fine, call me whatever you like. Just one thing. Inside the dorm, either call me Cheng Xiao or don't call me at all. Got it? A satisfied hush fell over the room as the part-timers nodded in unison. Mission accomplished. Boss Cheng could finally relax. Listen up. If I hear anyone call me Boss Cheng one more time, I'll deck them with a hook. Got it? Understood, Boss Cheng, the part-timers chorused, amusement dancing in their eyes. Cheng Xiao shook his head at their teasing, but said nothing more. He strode past them into the dormitory washroom, toothbrush in hand, intent on a quick scrub-up before bed. As the door clicked shut behind him, Wang Sheng turned to Xiao Wu. Hey, why did you and Cheng Xiao get back so late? Xiao Wu offered a casual shrug, glancing toward the washroom door. Oh, nothing special. I just accompanied Cheng Xiao to his Soul Master appraisal. A Soul Master appraisal? Wang Sheng's eyes widened. A ripple of envy swept through the other part-timers. After Cheng Xiao's performance today, they'd all witnessed something extraordinary. He'd taken on the senior students single-handedly and come out on top. Never before in Notting College's history had a lone part-timer defeated the senior ranks so decisively. Pride flared in their chests at the thought that one of their own had achieved the impossible. Since Cheng Xiao showed up, no one in the school dared give them strange looks anymore. After all, he was the undisputed boss of Dorm 7. All right, Wang Sheng, I'm going to crash. I've been walking all day, and I'm beat, Xiao Wu said, stretching and yawning. She crawled onto the wide bed they shared and was asleep in seconds. Wang Sheng scratched his head, signaled the other part-timers to keep their voices down, and tiptoed away. After washing up, Cheng Xiao returned to the dimly lit room. Xiao Wu lay curled under a quilt, peacefully asleep. He shook his head with a fond smile, then sat on the edge of the merged beds. Gently, he slipped his arms beneath her shoulders and lifted. Her weight was almost nothing. He laid her across one side of the bed, leaving room for himself, and tucked the blankets around her. No sooner had he settled down than Wang Sheng's voice drifted in from the doorway. Tang San, why are you back so late? Cheng Xiao looked up to see Tang San pushing the door open and stepping inside. Tang San watched as Cheng Xiao met his gaze, offered a brief nod, and then turned away to lie down. The sudden shift in Cheng Xiao's attitude puzzled him. They'd both been on edge all afternoon. Why was Cheng Xiao acting more relaxed now? He forced himself not to let his guard down. Only they knew the truth about the soul-hunting forest, and Tang San had no idea what lay behind Cheng Xiao's newfound ease. After all, if someone hadn't stayed behind to stall their pursuers back in the forest, none of them, least of all his teacher, would have escaped. Tang San believed he'd done the right thing. Cheng Xiao had been slowing them down, and Master was too important to risk. As for Tang San himself, he had no intention of courting danger unnecessarily. Still, curiosity got the better of him. Clearing his throat, he spoke quietly. Cheng Xiao, if you're not too tired, would you spar with me? Cheng Xiao turned his head to study him. Rumors of his prowess had been circulating in the cafeteria all week, and Tang San couldn't resist testing his own strength against such a reputed fighter. Perhaps a friendly match would answer the questions dancing in his mind and give them both a clearer sense of what the other was truly capable of. Cheng Xiao sat up and met Tang San's expectant look. "A spar?" she asked, her tone light. "Of course," she added casually. Tang San's face brightened. "Then Tang San, let's schedule it for tomorrow. I'm a bit sleepy right now." Cheng Xiao cut him off with a lazy yawn. "All right, tomorrow then," Tang San said, forcing a smile as his enthusiasm dimmed. "Perfect. Tomorrow it is." With a dismissive wave, Cheng Xiao lay back down and closed her eyes as if the matter were settled. Tang San watched her for a moment, then let out a soft, helpless sigh. She might have brushed him off, but at least she agreed to spar. They'd work out the details in the morning.